butter pie coordination meetings.
How are you?
And I keep telling her to knock it off, and I always try to leave it there, but there seems to always be where I get a slice of it.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You know what?
True.
It won't take long. 10, 15 minutes.
But I'd have to go to bed earlier than 4 o'clock.
We do. This is true. Yeah, this is true. Can't help you with that.
Yeah.
Right here I am with my paper.
There you
You
go.
can laugh. It's okay.
I am not going to laugh at you. Actually, I will say, I tried the other night. I was realizing when I said this, getting it on this thing, I'm having difficulty reading, and it's not coming up with the tabs.
Oh, really? Look.
And I don't know if it's the reader I'm on that's doing it.
How you doing?
Not as hard.
Good to see you. You too.
Good morning. I'd like to bring this meeting of PSTA to order. Thank you all for joining us. We'd like to start with a moment of silence if we would all rise. Thank you. Commissioner John Maroney, would you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Maroney.
Thank you.
We will begin with public comments. If you'd like to speak, please fill out a green card. You'll be given up to 3 minutes to speak on an item. If you'd like to combine your time, you can do that up to a maximum of 10 minutes. We have the green cards available at the front table. The first speaker I have is Dr. Eugene Webb.
Morning.
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 I have just a brief comment. I've had the pleasure of serving with a number of people that are on the dais today, with Darden and Wingay and Patty Johnson down in Pinellas Park. My issue this morning that I'd like to bring before you is a matter of public records. I do a lot of public records requests. I recently emailed most of you on the dais a link to a post that I wrote regarding an issue you're probably going to hear a whole lot about this morning. That's not what I'm here to ask you to do this morning. On Tuesday of this week, I submitted a public records request to the PSTA for Mr. Miller's emails for the month of July and August of this year. I received a reply that I normally receive, which is, we're working on an invoice. Now, I was the Assistant Director of Information and Technology Services for the City of St. Petersburg for 15 years and for the Police Department for 5 years. I processed the public records requests that are related to emails and archival email. I know what it takes to get those things out of the system. It's just a few minutes of work, and it should not require a charge. It should not require a significant amount of time, especially when the request is made for what we would determine as current emails. In the case of like all emails for 2014 or emails from 2013, in most archival servers, yes, that does require some time. It requires an IT professional to go back and pull those up, bring them current to the system, and put them out. But there is no call to charge the public to get information that should be currently and readily available. A few keystrokes. The request I made was not to reproduce them in paper. It was to provide them electronically. So it should not take any significant amount of time if this system is properly set up and properly run to pull those out, put them in a folder, attach them to an email, and return them. So what I would like to ask you to do today is to have the administration provide those emails. They don't necessarily have to provide them to me. They can put them up on the site. That would be fine. But I do not think it's proper to use we're going to prepare you an invoice method of deferring those kinds of requests. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Webb. I will ask Brad to look into that. I know that there is a provision for governments to charge for the cost of pulling those records. I know the county has that as well. Alan or Brad, do you have any comments on that particular issue?
Other than the standard policy, which is consistent with the case law, is that if the search is going to take more than 15 minutes, that PSTA charges for the labor costs that we incur to respond to public records requests.
Okay. Brad, can you let the board know the status of Mr. Webb's request
Yeah.
as soon as you can? Thank you. Next is Dave Kovar.
Hi, my name's Dave Kovar. I'm from Safety Harbor. I represent the Tampa Bay Post-Carbon Council, a future-looking think tank that supports the Greenlight Pinellas. I'm here about the things I'm reading in the paper. Maybe we'd call it the current brouhaha about calling for resignations. I wanted to say that I came here because I respect the intelligence of this board, the decisions you've made, but mostly I respect the patience of this board. It is absolutely incredible the amount of things that you've sat through. I've been involved in Greenlight. I came along late, maybe about a year now, but I know you guys have been involved a lot longer and have put up with a lot more than this. I've been watching just in this year what I've been calling the scandal of the day. Maybe what is nonsense and silliness, that each day some new idea comes out, and if it disappears, it disappears. Maybe this one will stick, maybe this one will get public attention, and if it doesn't, well then forget it. Whether we're talking about choo-choo trains are going to run over people in their cars, or whether it's we have darkened windows so people can't see inside our buses. Oh, well, those didn't catch? Okay, well, let's try this. Taxes are going to make poor people starve. Oh, that one didn't catch? Well, let's try this. Brad Miller should resign. I mean, we hear this day after day after day, and as a person in the Post-Carbon Council who is looking forward, I look to sites that are serious, future-looking, like APTA. I was so glad to see when you guys brought them in. I've been a follower now for 5 years of a group called Better Cities and Towns, the New Urbanism, groups like that, and that's why I'm so excited about the rail solution, for seeing us have serious developments. And the like, again, the nonsense about the illegal pens and buttons and bus wraps that went to it was called, how many weeks did we spend hearing about it? It went to an investigation. The investigation came back just as we said there was no problem there, yet I read on both Senator Brandeis' website that it's still out there, like it's still an issue. I'm reading web comments, blog comments last night that people said, there's those still illegal buttons and there's the illegal bus wrap. I'm writing, hey guys, that was resolved, that's gone, yet people are still pounding on it, and that's what I mean by your patience. Your patience first to have nonsense thrown at you, to have it resolved, and still have it brought up. And I'm quite confident that after this issue is resolved, which will show that there's no problems at all, that you're going to hear about it stated as if it was true, even after it's proven false. So I'd like to thank you all, first for your forward-looking intelligence, and second for your patience, really in an environment that has, I'm surely, tried your patience again and again and again. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Kovar. Next speaker is Gisela Labitz.
Good morning. Thank
Good morning.
you for allowing me to speak. My name is Gisela Laubitz. I live on 1432 Durling Drive South, South Pasadena. Mr. Miller has misused federal grant money in full knowledge what the qualification requirements for those funds were. His hurried repayment to DHS of $354,000 confirms that he clearly knew he had misused this grant money for feel-good green light advertisements. Greenlight's proposed sales tax increase, to the highest in the state of Florida, will tax the poor and the middle class and help the rich and well-connected. Greenlight is based on false promises and false assumptions. Mr. Miller travels around Pinellas County, making big promises to all communities in the county to cajole them into voting yes for Greenlight. A closer look at the Greenlight budget reveals that these promises cannot be delivered, and that the massive sales tax increase will be insufficient to raise the billions of dollars required to deliver on this boondoggle called Greenlight. Mr. Miller is arrogant in assuming that the taxpayers are gullible and incapable to comprehend the destructive nature of this project.
Ms. Labitz, I'm going to ask you to speak to the issues and not on personalities.
Mr. Miller has failed to focus on running PSTA efficiently and has squandered millions of our tax dollars He does not deserve to be trusted by the taxpayers and should resign. PSTA Chairman and Pinellas County Commissioner Ken Welch has neglected his supervisory responsibilities of taxpayer interests in his eagerness to push green light. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Barbara Hazelden.
Yeah, Barbara Hazelden, 1043 31st Terrace, Northeast St. Pete. In May 2014, concerns were brought forward to FEMA by local citizens regarding the possible misuse of Department of Homeland Security grant money by PSTA. PSTA developed a series of feel-good commercials and graphic bus wraps with no connection to protection of the citizens against the very real threat of terrorism in our community, who often target mass transit. Both bus wraps and TV commercials directed the public to go to greenlightpinellas.com, thus using the grant monies to promote the Greenlight tax increase referendum in November. After review of the materials, the DHS informed Brad Miller that the radio and television ads did not promote security awareness. On July 30th, Brad Miller sent a reimbursement check for $354,000 to Homeland Security. This turnabout is in stark contrast to the indignant PSTA reaction 1 month earlier when the story first surfaced on air. Investigative reporter Mike Deason picked up on the story and reported his findings on air June 23rd. 2 days later, at the PSTA board meeting on June 25th, under the direction of Brad Miller and Ken Welch, they ridiculed the citizens involved, and Miller stated publicly they were spreading misinformation, and even a board member discussed demanding a retraction from Mike Deason during the meeting. And when CEO Miller was asked directly by board member to confirm the DHS was aware of how the funds were used and that they had no problem with the campaign, Miller stated flatly, that is correct. Now we know 1 month later that declaration was not true. Pinellas County Commissioner and PSTA Chair Ken Welch added at the same meeting during the same discussion, on my Facebook page I have a slogan, keep calm and support Greenlight. For those of us that have been in campaigns, we know this is the way it's going to be all the way to November. Opponents will use every tactic they have to defeat Greenlight. Now we find out that according to a letter now obtained from FEMA to PSTA, feds warn PSTA could face criminal charges. The letter reveals that PSTA misled Homeland Security in the grant application by claiming the money would be used to enhance the public awareness of their role in keeping the community safe. However, DHS says the ads were not used in a manner expressly described in its application. DHS has not only demanded the PSTA reimburse the $354,000, but also that it had to immediately cease and desist what it calls the inaccurate claim the ads were paid for, in part by grant from Homeland Security. And finally, even though they have returned the money, the government doesn't waive its right to pursue criminal or civil remedies. The board of directors of PSTA has violated the public trust under the leadership of CEO Miller and Chair Ken Welch, and it shows that they will push Greenlight at any cost, even to jeopardize the safety of the population. They have mocked the public who have questioned their actions. For these reasons and countless more instances of our perception of mismanagement of our public transit agency, PSTA, we call for Mr. Miller's resignation immediately. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hazelden. Mr. Tom Rask.
Hello, good morning. I sent an email several weeks ago saying I'd come to this meeting today before things really took off. At the time, I was a little bit confused because I had called for Chairman Welch to resign because I feel that he doesn't exercise oversight. Oversight is the responsibility of this board. It has since, and I was a bit confused because others were calling for Brad Miller's resignation, the PSTA CEO. Since then, this letter from DHS/FEMA has come out, and while it might be more advantageous for those of us who oppose Greenlight Pinellas from a political point of view, so to speak, to have this twist in the wind until referendum day, November 4th, I think that accountability demands that Mr. Miller leave now. Also, I think that Mr. Welch should leave because, as other speakers have pointed out, this issue was brought up in June. Instead of looking into the issue, you chose to basically not take it seriously. And as I said in an email to you all, it's a matter of being a chairman, not a cheerleader. I say that respectfully, but you have an oversight responsibility. Mr. Dighton at least did ask in June whether the money was correctly used. It reminds me a little bit of a thoroughly forgettable movie from 25 years ago, Peter O'Toole movie called High Spirits, where they scared up, they went around castles in Ireland, excuse me, I'm a little bit tired today, but they were conjuring up ghosts that didn't exist. And then when real ghosts showed up, they didn't know what to do. So again, respectfully, I think that you're the peacetime generals. There will be a time you'll need wartime generals, and I say that figuratively. So I would suggest that those of you who feel uncomfortable by what's happened here in relation to this DHS FEMA thing, that you leave and return another time when you're more comfortable with things. Now, my friend Dave Kovar might call what I'm going to talk about now just the scandal of the day, but I'm reading here from an email that I received, which I'd like to have Mr. Miller comment on. The email said, PSTA is paying 2 drivers, Jose Santiago and Ken Elliott, overtime to stand in front of PSTA gates to ask each driver as they pull into the parking lot if they would like a green light sign to stick in their yard. The drivers are mad because about 2 weeks ago, PSTA was forcing them to work overtime and begging drivers to cash out their vacation pay, even though that is against the contract, because they were so short of drivers. But to see that PSTA is actually paying overtime to hand out signs is upsetting to some drivers. So I would like to know if PSTA is paying drivers overtime to stand and get other drivers to place green light signs in the yard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. I'll ask Brad to address that after the speakers. Dr. David McCallum.
I'm Dr. David McCaleb with the SunbeamTimes.com. In November, voters will be asked to approve a $148 million annual sales tax to go to this agency. They will be asked to approve a 14% increase in their sales tax to fund a train from St. Pete to Clearwater, not Tampa, that very few will ride. This requires that they trust the government agency that is going to get this annual tax hike. Unfortunately, this government agency, the PSTA, has lost the trust of the voters because of its continued scandals relating to how they use tax money now. This is not a one-time thing. This is a pattern of abuse of our tax dollars. Mr. Miller and Mr. Welch on June 24th defended the abuse of money designed to stop bombings of our buses by the PSTA to instead promote Greenlight Pinellas. When confronted with what the grant application actually said, that it's supposed to raise the awareness of the public in their role in preventing bus bombings, they said that's not what the money's about, and they lied to this board. They said it was phase 1 and not phase 2. They said it's information. They say that we're falsely accusing people of things. They lied to this board. So the question is this board going to tolerate the lies? They get a rubber stamp from the FDOT to spend $800,000 in taxpayer money on a Greenlight Pinellas education campaign. It doesn't matter if a state transit agency allows taxpayer money by another transit agency to use money for propaganda. The citizens don't want their money wasted on Greenlight propaganda. Another abuse. They spread misinformation with this, saying that they don't have to promote negative facts about the highest sales tax in the state, that they don't have to talk about how congestion studies have been hidden from the public, about how congestion will actually continue to go up after the train is built, while they say congestion will go down. This is a level of contempt for the public that is not acceptable by our elected leaders, and it's because the PSTA and Commissioner Welch and Brad Miller are drunk with power. You do not care about lying to the public. You hold them in contempt. That's why you continue to lie. And I will give you the details of the lie to each board member so you can see them in stark reality in front of your face. On June 24th, Councilmember Wenge Newton said, I think as board members we should advocate strong and hard, relentlessly without fail to make sure the people we represent are well informed. I agree, Councilman Newton. will you hold these people to account? I see Commissioner Drayton, who asked, was it vetted by DHS, and was told yes? He's missing. Why? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McKayla. The last speaker I have, and if you'd like to speak, please fill out a green card, is Holly Bennett. Is Holly Bennett here? Did anyone else wish to speak? Are you Ms. Bennett?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm Holly Bennett, 331 Cleveland Street. I'm just very concerned about this whole situation. I just feel like the speakers have already addressed it, but that how can we trust when this much has gone on, that it's just not being honest, that our taxpayer dollars just appear to have been wasted and we're not secure, as the speakers have already addressed. I'm just very concerned for the future, how this money could have been wasted in so many ways and so many false statements that I'm just still in shock. I just ask that people review and be honest and realize we have a lot of problems and we need to work on them. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett. I appreciate your comments and the comments that were presented here today. Before we move on to the other part of the agenda, I do want to make some comments for the record. Obviously, I disagree with much that has been said by several of the speakers here today. I do just want to restate some events that have occurred in the last month. Perhaps the speakers did not see a letter to the editor that I wrote to the Tampa Bay Times that I distributed on my Facebook page that clearly said that this organization made a mistake with the handling of that grant. The information that we had at our last meeting was not accurate. And I clearly stated that. And I stated that we're going to learn from that episode, and the CEO is already putting in procedures in place to review our grant processes and procedures. In my view, it was more a lack of communication with DHS. We did ask DHS on several occasions to approve the grant. They did not respond to that. But at the end of the day, we do bear responsibility for making sure that every grant that we execute is in full compliance. And in that case, we did not do that, and we're going to fix that. But I think it's important to keep some things in perspective. Number one, this was last year. This is not tied to the green light effort that's underway right now. Staff tells me that 90% of those ads ran last year before the Board of County Commissioners even put this on a referendum. So it's not tied to the vote that is coming up. At that point, it was a green light logo, and green light was the planning process for the Green Light Pinellas plan at that point. Also want to say that about 3 weeks ago, I believe, after a discussion with DHS, our CEO made the decision to return those grant dollars. This was a couple of weeks before we received the letter from DHS, and I support Brad in that decision. Once we got more information, more direct response from DHS, we found out that, in fact, no, we did not have the specific message in that commercial that should have been there to be in full compliance with the grant. And so the CEO made that decision. It was the right decision. Keep in mind that PSTA handles about $19 million in grants every year, and we do that well. This was an outlier. This was a mistake that we're going to correct. And the best organizations from time to time make a mistake. And the way you deal with that is you say you made a mistake, you look at what happened, and you put procedures into place to make sure that doesn't happen again. Some of the comments from Mr. McKillop and Mr. Rask and others are consistent. I know that you and I have different views about the role of government. This goes back to even your opposition to the penny for Pinellas in 2007, your opposition to affordable housing. So we will not agree on those issues. But to make personal attacks and to ask for our CEO to be fired or to resign, I think is ironic coming from you, because you made some pretty big mistakes as well. And I remember you standing before folks and saying, I made a mistake, allow me to learn from that and move on. I think you ought to allow our CEO that same consideration.
You've exceeded that low bar.
Let me, I didn't interrupt you, so you're still working on that.
I was not doing any personal.
I didn't interrupt you, sir. Let me speak. Now, I will make the same statement to you that I've made every other time that you and your colleagues have asked that I resign. This is not new. You asked that I step down in 2012, right before an election. That time you were outraged about term limits, which the courts, both Circuit Court and Second DCA, said do not apply to the County Commission. You were outraged and said that the County Commission illegally used penny for Pinellas money for our affordable housing land trust, which is a blatant falsehood. So you have a pattern of making accusations of illegality that are not substantiated. So this is not new. You're consistent in that. I'm going to be consistent in my response. We have things called elections. And the voters of Pinellas County consistently have elected folks that have a different view than you have for this county. That doesn't give you a veto authority to say who sits on this board. So my answer to you is consistent. Not only is the answer no, I will not resign, but heck no, I will not resign. You do not have veto authority over the citizens who elected me to this office. And as far as me serving on this board, I serve at the pleasure of this board. And if any of them wants the job, they can say so. But, I'm happy to serve for this board. I said I'd serve this year as chairman. But any member of the board, if they feel they need to go in a different direction, can bring that forward. But that's not something that you or Mr. Rask or Ms. Hazelden can dictate. We have elections. We had an election last night again, where in the arena of ideas, we had a debate. Green light was front and center in that debate. The citizens made a choice, and they showed that they do trust Commissioner John Maroney, who serves on this board. In the last, please, we don't want applause on either side. In the last few elections, please, folks, let's try to be civil. I've done this before, so this is kind of deja vu. But in the election prior with Commissioner Johnson and Barkley, the citizens had an opportunity to decide if they had faith in the members on this board. In the St. Petersburg elections prior to that, green light was an issue. And going back to 2012, when the 4 commissioners who supported green light, including Commissioner Long and myself, Commissioner Seal, and Commissioner Justice, were all elected by the people. So the people decide who sits on this board. And so for that point issue, I will certainly not resign. In terms of our CEO, he serves at the pleasure of this board. As one member of this board, I have faith in our CEO. He has worked hard for this organization. We are exactly where we plan to be at this point in the green light process, with broad support across the county. I think the election last night indicated some of that support. 15 cities have signed on. We're getting the information out to the public, which is allowable. It's the same thing that we did with the penny for Pinellas, telling the public what the project will do. And so I have faith in Brad, and the board knows that when things happen in between meetings, the chairman has to do certain things. I can't talk to y'all because of sunshine, but I did talk to Brad, and I believe we're on the same page, and that's the reason for the memo that we're going to talk about later. So I support Brad continuing as CEO of this organization, and that's 1 vote out of 15, but I want to state that as well. So that's my response to the comments here today. Board members, we've got a deep agenda, but if there are any comments at this point, I'll hear them from this board. Please do not. No, your time is done, sir. Please do not interrupt the meeting.
So you deny that request from the public?
The comments are over. I'm going to ask you.
That request from the public, yes or no?
I'm denying your request to speak past your time. Thank you. Comments from the board. Commissioner Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Welch, and thank everyone for coming out, and thank everyone for being so passionate. Commissioner Welch is right. There was an election last night, and everybody got the opportunity to participate. It's civil duty to go out and exercise their democratic right to vote, and it did that. And some of the people in this room was on ballots and trying to run with their ideology or how they think the PSTA or the county commission should go, and the people thought otherwise. And that's the beauty of this Greenlight Pinellas, this transit initiative, which is going to give people transportation options. It's on the ballot November 4, and the people will get an opportunity to vote. That's the beauty of it. If you don't like it, you can vote against it. And if you have visions for a more robust and expanded transit system, you can vote for it. Also, people started talking about the grant money that was returned. Hear me now. All of the money that was given back, every penny. So how could you say that taxpayer money was wasted when it all went back from which it came? I don't understand that math, because if they gave me $1 and they got $1 back, then I would have my $1 and I would be made whole. Mistakes, everybody makes them. We're imperfect leaders, and we pray that you would honor our decisions, because God is not finished with us yet. As to our CEO, Brad, nobody works harder for the transportation and the PSTA, nobody. This gentleman goes above and beyond the call of duty, and that's what's expected. And I think the taxpayers ought to be happy that their money is being spent on an individual that does just that. When people sit around and you don't see them anywhere and they get high six-figure salaries, and you say they don't do nothing, you got a problem with them living off of the taxpayers. But when people go out and work really hard to try to communicate transit options for our future, then they shouldn't be doing that, because that's tax money. So I don't understand. I get a little confused. But I want to close with saying that why I got involved in this whole thing and offer myself as a public servant is so that people would have a say. If you know me, you know about the pier. I was a lone vote on the pier because the people did not get an opportunity to vote. It's all about vote. You dance with the one that brought you. And the people put me here by the vote, so no one should fear the outcome of the vote. And on November 4th, you'll get to do just that.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Any other board comments before we move on? Commissioner Long?
Yes, and I'm going to be very brief, Mr. Chairman, but I feel a responsibility to respond to some of the things that have been said today, in that I have full faith in you as our chair, and I have full faith in Brad as our leader. And I think it's really important that we step back and have a little perspective on this entire thing that's going on. We're about 70 days away from a general election, 70 days. I venture to say that we will hear a lot of angst and accusations between now and November. To that end, I think it's important that as board members we remember where we've come from. When Brad first came here, just a short 4 years ago, I believe, we were worried about making budget, for heaven's sakes, and now we have turned this agency, thanks to his leadership, into a very sound, fiscal, responsible agency that is equal to or exceeding every national indicator in terms of our performance and the way we handle our money. We are on the verge of making history here in Pinellas County. And as for the comments about Homeland Security and that grant, I hope that the people that are making those accusations are paying attention to what is going on in the world right now. I venture to say that Homeland Security is pretty busy using all of their resources to protect and defend our country with American lives on the line. $350,000 in a grant that has been returned to them is hardly their biggest priority, and I really resent the comments about criminal activity. No one on this board or our chair or our CEO are intentionally doing things to break the law that would warrant criminal activity. And so thank you for allowing me the opportunity to say that.
Thank you, Commissioner Long. Any other board comments before we move forward?
Yes.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, our organization made a mistake, and I'm very sorry for that. Period. I apologize if that happened. I'm not going to try to explain it. It was a mistake, and I'm sorry. and I know that we are putting processes in place to ensure that that never happens again, because it is our responsibility to have strong oversight over the taxpayer dollar. And I'm sorry that that didn't happen with this situation. But we did everything we needed to do to try to make it right, and we will continue to do everything we need to do to make it right. Having said that, Brad came to us as a new CEO several years back and has done some really great things for our organization. We have a 15-member board that meets once a month that really had very little contact with the organization itself. And he implemented a new committee system where nothing that comes before us at these board members hasn't gone through a committee that almost every one of us are involved in. Things that get really well vetted. And I'm very proud of that because it has forced a transit agency board to get involved hands-on. And that's something really great that I'm proud of, and that's something that Brad brought forward. That's something he's done for the board, increasing stronger communication, and he, as Chairman Welch said, is going to continue to work on stronger communication. For the employees and this organization, Brad has done a lot of great things too when he came in. He reorganized and tried to look at people's strengths. He hired some extremely skilled folks that didn't exist before Brad came. And with the DHS situation, he did not blame any employees that had their hands on it. He threw himself on the sword as the head of this organization. And I respect him for that. But he was not the only one involved. But I respect his loyalty to his employees. And for the public, Brad has added service, increased our trolley service, expanded our North County connector. He has brought forward and was the only person in the last leadership of the last 10 years that was smart enough and listened enough to the public to say, guess what? Expanded transportation in Pinellas County is not just about a train. We have to have expanded bus service. We need a comprehensive multimodal transit plan. He brought that forward to the public and to this board and to his employees. That's forward thinking, and that's on behalf of the public. And so for those things, I support him 100%. I am obviously, again, very sorry about the DHS incident. We've returned the money. We are making steps to correct those things. But I think the conversation needs to get back to what does Pinellas County want for a transportation system? And I believe Greenlight Pinellas is the thing to have.
Thank you, Secretary Buljowski. Very well stated, ma'am. Any other comments before we move on? Thank you all, and thank you all for the public comments. We'll now move on to our awards and recognition. Mr. Ross Silvers.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, do we have another?
you wanted Brad to respond to.
He wants to wait until later
No
on.
problem.
So.
Okay, hello everyone from the board and the public. Thank you for being here today. My name is Ross Silvers. I am the mobility manager for PSTA, and I'm coming here to inform you of what happened on July 31st of this year in Orlando. I was honored to be present at the State of Florida Commission for the Transportation Disadvantaged Annual Awards Banquet. And at that event, we, Pinellas County, was honored to have been nominated for 2 awards that they give out with competition from throughout the state. The first of those awards was for what they call Urban CTC of the Year. CTC means Community Transportation Coordinator. And it's a fancy title, and it involves all the work that PSTA does, both from our grant that we get from the state to serve people who are transportation disadvantaged and don't have other means of transportation and have low income and disabilities and seniors, and also for coordinating services between different human service agencies that offer transportation to make sure that it's safe and operate in a coordinated manner. So those are just a few examples of what it's about. I'm going to read you a couple quotes that were in the program from the nomination that was submitted by our friends at the MPO. They wrote that PSTA embraces what it means to be a community transportation coordinator. In just its second year, PSTA streamlined transportation disadvantaged applications and received excelled ratings on its annual evaluation that's performed each year of a CTC, and said that we are quick and thorough in response to community needs. And that latter comment, I think, refers to, you all may recall that early in 2014, we came to you a couple different times in making revisions to some improvements to the Transportation Disadvantaged Bus Pass program. And I'm very pleased to say that the number of bus passes, the number of people being helped in that program has increased quite significantly, and people are so grateful for that service. And so on behalf of all those individuals who receive those services every day and are so, and otherwise a lot of them are walking without it, we hear from them every day, I want to recognize the people who help make that happen. So from my staff who do this work every day, we have Emma De Jesus and Kim Leggett, if you all can stand if you're named, and also Linda Payne, and then Teresa Jablonski's out. We also, of course, get support from our finance department, who helps make sure everything gets proper accounting and taken care of on time and bus passes going out. Our IT department, who keeps everything up and running, so all of our customer service reps who distribute the passes and provide the information every day. And I know I'm leaving folks out, but of course we can't forget our board and our CEO, who made the decision several years ago for us to become the CTC and to make these improvements so that people who have the needs can get them. So I want to thank everybody for all their hard work. Thank you.
Ross, thank you so much for your leadership, and I noticed your team stayed back there, though they didn't come up front, but thank you all for your incredible work. We appreciate it.
Thank
Brad?
you. I appreciate that, Mr. Chair. There's also one other award I want to mention to you briefly as well. And the second award, we actually nominated 2 individuals to share the Volunteer of the Year award. And these 2 individuals, one of them is Jane Walker, and Jane Walker has been a member of the local coordinating board, which has a policy oversight role with this program. She's been on that program for many years with the LCB, and she's also their liaison to the homeless program committee, part of the Homeless Leadership Board. And she as well as the other, and she's also in her paying job, she is the executive director of Daystar and has done many innovative things such as being able to help people get photo IDs. They can go down to the terminal and buy their bus pass, which is a requirement we have.
Well, I see Jane back there. Did y'all want to come up, you and Michael?
And Michael Raposa is the other one. And if you both could come forward, please, I would appreciate it. Michael Raposa is a member of, is the vice chair of that homeless program committee. And he and Jane came to a meeting here to help work out ways to continue moving forward and to also make sure that the community and all of us are on board. So I want to very much thank them. And they each received a copy of this beautiful plaque that came to us from the state. And PSTA had, this is ours as well. So congratulations.
This will be brief. I know a lot of you know that I've been dealing with transportation issues probably in the 35 years that I've been working with the poor in this community, and this last 4 or 5 years has been our best chance to get the transportation disadvantaged mobile. And I'm just glad to see we finally have a partnership that's working and that we're able to get more folks where they need to go. When you see folks walking with babies and leaving food behind because they can't carry it because they're walking, you wonder how do they get to the grocery store? How do they do all these things? So I appreciate the work and the forward movement that everybody in Pinellas County is going to be better off. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane.
First and foremost, I want to thank your staff. I have the privilege and the curse to work in multiple counties with our agency. We work across the bay and above the bay. And I was told after we got this through and we worked with your staff to make this happen that there's no way in heck that that's going to happen on the other side of the bay that begins with H. And I said, you don't know Michael Raposa, and I'm not going to stop until it happens, and I hope it doesn't take 30 years to make it happen. You know, I'm embarrassed by this because the work that Jane and I both work together and do on a daily basis, we do it because we believe in it, we do it because it's the right thing to do, and we do it because our agency in particular has, our core belief is that we must stand as the voice of the poor. And the people who need our services and the people who need our system can't get here because it's an hour bus ride from St. Petersburg to get here. And I laughed at the irony of when I got out of my car this morning at the Mercedes that was parked next to me with the no tax for tracks on it. And I thought, God, I'd love to have that Mercedes downtown to be traveling some homeless people around because they can't get from point A to point B, and they would kill for a bicycle, much less for a Mercedes. And the courage and the fortitude that it takes for you all to sit there and to have a vision for our greater community, I applaud you. And I can assure you that the voices that you heard this morning are not the voices of the general population of Pinellas County. We will get the vote out, and we will stand strong. This is about Matthew's gospel coming to fruition today. Because Matthew's gospel, if it was written in 2014, it would give instruction to clothe the naked, to feed the poor, and to visit the people, but it would also say pick them up and give them a good ride to where they need to go. Because it is critical to get jobs for these people. And these are people that cannot afford a car, and they kill for a bicycle. We do an award for a bicycle, and I'll have 200 homeless people coming forward, and they'll do anything just to get 2 wheels on a bicycle. This is critical, folks, and I am very, very grateful to you and to your staff and to Mr. Miller for actually working side by side with the community and the partners in this community that advocate for the poor of this community. And we just need to not listen to the people driving Mercedes. Thank you.
Michael and Jane, thank you so much for your leadership. We appreciate it, and thank you for being here today. Ross, thank you, sir. We will now, do you have anything? I'm sorry, Commissioner Johnson.
I get the opportunity to work with Ross and his staff at the transportation disadvantaged meetings. And one of the things that never gets brought up is Pinellas County is, I believe, and I'm certainly open to someone correcting me, the most densely populated county in Florida. We also have a bit of a densely populated, aging population. Am I right, Ross? I'm one of them. There's a bunch of us out there, and there's going to be a bunch more. I think we get to be called the baby boomers, and we're going to need transportation. Scariest thing I see every day is I have to take away Mom's car. And what do we do then? And it's a sad day in everyone's life when they have to sit at home forever because they can't go anywhere. That's part of what we're working towards, is to increase transportation for the elderly, for the disadvantaged, to be able to put people back to work. So when we're all talking about trains, let's not get the train ahead of the bus, okay? Because we need it, and we're going to need it more and more and more. So thank you. Thank you for being here and working so hard. Ross, you go.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. We will now move on to item 4, our Transit Riders Advisory Committee, and we're happy to have the new chair, Elaine Mann, with us. Good morning.
Good morning. Mr. Welch, Mr. Miller, esteemed board, my name is Elaine Mann, and I'm the newly elected chair of the Transit Riders Advisory Committee. Also elected on the 19th was the vice chairman, Stephanie Leishman. We met on August 19th, during which time we reviewed and discussed and unanimously endorsed the Gillig bus purchase, the bus Wi-Fi hardware contract, and the transit development plan. We also had a great presentation by Mr. Miller regarding benchmarking and its application. And we're pleased to be participating with this board and certainly enjoy any input that we might have for the board or are able to provide the board on a go-forward basis. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mann, and thank you for leading the track. It's a very important part of our oversight moving forward, and we look forward to hearing from you on a regular basis. Thank you. We'll now move forward to a special presentation from our friend from across the bay in Hillsborough, Mr. Joe Lopano, CEO of Tampa International Airport. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me out today. Okay, so this is the clip. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here today to talk to you about things that are happening at Tampa International Airport. Let me begin by citing the law that actually created the airport. This is stated in Florida state law. It says that the economic validity and stability of the publicly owned airports is a matter of statewide importance. So we have a responsibility to make sure the airport is economically stable. It's not only a matter of statewide importance, it's a matter of national importance. It's a national asset. And Tampa Airport, as everybody here knows, that airport is your airport. It's the community's airport and was designed in a brilliant fashion and today has one of the best customer service ratings of any airport in the country. But also the policy of state says it's our duty to promote the development of commerce and tourism, to secure to the people of the state the benefits of those activities. So as you know, when I first got here, there was a clamor about the fact that I wanted to market and get international flights. Basically says that in the law, that it's our responsibility to bring commerce and tourism through that airport. That's the only reason it was created. And we had a vision for doing things and creating something that doesn't exist, which this board has as well. There were people who said you can't get international flights here and you shouldn't spend any money marketing for international flights. There were people who said that. But there are people sitting at this board who said, no, I'm going to give you money to market for international flights. And we now have the proof in the pudding. And I'm going to show you that in just a moment. So I say to you, the vision is the key. And people with vision can make a change in a community. We have 600 people who report to me at the authority. 7,500 people work at the airport. There are 24,000 local jobs that are created just by the airport. And we generate about $7 billion a year in economic activity. Interesting fact, only 30% of our passengers come from Hillsborough County. Another 30% come from Pinellas County. And I will say this for our CEO, Brad Miller. I asked him to come on out and visit with me at the airport, and he did. And I asked him for a bus from St. Pete to the airport. And the answer was, let me take a look at that. And now I understand you have a bus that's going to do just that in this year's budget. And so I applaud you for that. There's 30% of my customers come from Pinellas County. And now they can come to the airport and not have to pay for parking and decongest the roadways and so on. So I applaud you for that solution. Believe it or not, 8% of our customers come from Sarasota. So we are truly the gateway to the west coast of Florida. In 2012 alone, more than 2.6 million Pinellas County visitors came through Tampa International Airport, stayed in the hotels in Pinellas, and spent money here. We have been very aggressive in trying to grow our international and domestic access. And you can see here on this slide, we have had some great successes. More recently, I'll point out down to the lower right, Seattle. On Alaska Airlines, we now have nonstop flights to Seattle, never existed in the history of the airport. So now you can leave Seattle at 9 in the morning and be on the beach for sunset here. Now, if you've been to Seattle, the beach is a nice idea. And the only other beach that you can get to in the United States from Seattle is Hawaii. So this flight is now running in July. It ran over 90% load factor. And I get emails from people who say, Joe, thank you for this flight. I just flew nonstop to Seattle. So it's working. Our strategy is working. We just also got a new nonstop flight to Los Angeles from American. So now we have Delta and American flying to L.A. The next place we need is San Francisco. So we're working on that right now.
Good.
In addition, this winter, Tampa will see additional Copa flights and British Airways flights. We have now daily 777 service on British Airways to London. We have 2 flights a week to Zurich on Edelweiss. Who would have thunk it that we would have nonstop service to Zurich, Switzerland? But we do. Cuba, we have 3 cities that we serve with 10 flights a week. And that's a reflection of the historic Cuban-American population that exists in our community. And the one I think is that I'm most proud of is Copa Airlines to Panama, 4 times weekly service that began in December, but they're going to fly daily November, December, and January of this year, and that flight is doing great. So if you want to go to Brazil, you can go to Panama and connect to 7 cities in Brazil. You can connect to 6 cities in Colombia. You can connect to 3 cities in Costa Rica. So this is the gateway to the Americas, and this community is now connected to all of the Americas through that flight. In fact, our international traffic since I got here is up 42%. This was a mandate from my board, just like you are giving mandates as board members here. My board said, I want you to go out and grow international traffic. And so I put together a plan. I went and saw Commissioner Latvala and the tourism folks here in Pinellas, and they actually gave us money to be spent at Tampa Airport to get flights, because they understood that the customers that come in on those flights are going to stay in Pinellas County hotels and go to the beaches. And now we have the rewards of that investment that we've made, and we'll continue. And the reason we do that is because we create jobs. And one international daily nonstop flight has a $154 million economic impact. More importantly, it creates 1,200 jobs. So you may wonder, like some economist up in Boston came up with this number, but think about it this way. We got 300 people coming in today from London. They're going to arrive at 5 o'clock. They each have 10,000 euros in their pocket, and they're going to leave them in our community and then go home. And you don't have to educate their kids, and you don't have to build them any roads. This happens every day. So it's a worthwhile investment. That's the best foreign investment you can get. Now I'd like to talk to you about our 2012 master plan. And this is, well, I'll get to that in a moment. Here's our projected passenger traffic. We're going to double in passengers in the next 20 years. The FAA requires us to do a master plan every 5 to 7 years. The plan says we're going to double in passengers. Now, can you imagine, you've driven through the airport, and it's a pretty nice ride into the airport. Sometimes it's a little crowded. Can you imagine twice as many cars? Can you imagine twice as many passengers on the transfer level? Okay, so that's what we're looking at. We, like you, are looking into the future and seeing something that is not sustainable. So we have to act. We cannot kick the can down the road. I will not do that. We will act, and we will do it right, and I'm going to show you how that works. The master plan's findings, very simply, the main terminal is nearing maximum capacity. Around the holidays or spring break, when you're trying to meet and greet, you'll see the people coming off the shuttle cars. Very difficult to get to the escalators. Imagine twice as many people there. The curbside, nearing maximum capacity. You've probably been to the curbside and been backed out onto the roadway. That's an unsafe condition. We had to deal with that. Our roadways are nearing maximum capacity. Our rental car facility, which is hugely important for Pinellas County, is now at capacity. It cannot grow. Now, we are the 9th largest rental car market in the whole country. So people come to Florida, they rent cars, and they drive to the beach. And so it's important that we have the ability to grow that so that this county can grow in tourism. And our long-term parking was at maximum capacity. So one of the solutions that the planners brought back to me was, well, let's build more roads and let's build another parking garage. I'm like, that's the best you got? Really? They said, well, it's really cheap. I said, I'll worry about the money. You come back to me with the right answer. The right answer, it turns out, is to move the rental car facility, because the rental cars were generating 8,500 car trips a day. That caused our roadway congestion. That caused our curbside congestion. And our parking lot we needed more parking spaces. Well, the rental car facility takes up 2 floors of our parking garage. So as soon as you move the rental car, you solve all these problems. And that's what we're going to do. So there are 3 major elements to this plan. Number 1, the transfer level, which is where you go to catch the shuttles, will be expanded by 50,000 square feet. We're going to push the shuttle bays out of the building, 1 full car length. And then we're going to build out to the east and west, 50,000 square feet, and we're going to put restaurants out there with outdoor dining. I'll show you that in a moment. We're going to build a 2.3 million square foot consolidated rental car center on the south of the airport. And then we're going to connect that building to our main terminal with a 1.3 mile automated people mover system. The whole project is $943 million. Wow. My board approved it. We're going forward with it. We've already awarded contracts. We will create more than 9,000 temporary jobs. I have 600 people who work for me at the airport. We'll have 900 people at any one time working on this project. And I've been told by our contractor community, we don't have enough tradesmen in a community to do this work. We're going to have to bring people in from Louisiana and Texas where they left. When things got bad here, they're going to come back and work here in Florida. Now, what this does is it takes cars off the road and provides solutions. So we took 8,500 car trips off the road. Now I don't have to build more roadways. I have 20 years worth of growth. And I move the rental cars to the south. So when you come in off the highway, you go directly to the rental car. When you rent your car, you go directly on the road. And we don't interact with those cars. Does that sound familiar? It's a transit solution within my little envelope of the airport. It's a train that's going to get the cars off the road so I don't have to build roads. And when we get the buses to the airport, I won't have to build parking garages because people have a way to get there. So here's a view of the Consolidated Rental Car Center. The Consolidated Rental Car Center building is $318 million. The train will actually pull in right here, and the doors will open, and you'll be looking at Hertz. So once the doors open, you can take your wheelie bag and go right to your car. No steps, no escalators, perfect customer service. And the automated people mover budget is $417.5 million. And you may have heard that we got a grant, a very generous grant from the state of $194 million from the Florida Department of Transportation. That's how much they believe in this project. And now here's the transfer level. I talked to you about the fact that we're going to push it out to the sides. We're going to create really cool food courts, all new concessions programs. So all of our concessions are going to be redone by 2017. So we may see Chipotle out there. We may see a Brooks Brothers or an Ann Taylor store that doesn't exist today. All new concepts will be at the airport by 2017. Oops. Now, this all ties in, and what we were told, let me go forward now. Yeah. Okay, so construction begins at the end of 2014. We're going to have 4 tower cranes around the main terminal. And we'll have probably 4 tower cranes down at the Conrack site. So you drive in right now, it's very peaceful, very beautiful. We're going to try to keep it peaceful and beautiful, but we have to build this building. So I just, as a point of information, at the end of 2014, you're going to start seeing a lot of activity out at the airport, but it'll all be completed. Plan is by 2017. Now, we want to be able to connect to the region, and so, I'm in trouble with this thing. Here we go. The Florida Department of Transportation has recommended a site for an intermodal center at West Shore. Okay, we want to be able to connect to that from the airport. So there again, we want nonstop buses to the airport, but also if you want to get there through the intermodal center, we want to have a connection to the airport as well. This gives people an opportunity to go there and not have to pay for parking, save money, and get there a little bit more conveniently. And this is the future express bus plan for Pinellas County under the green light plan. And you can see all the green lines are what are known as express bus service to the airport. And as I said, 30% of our customers come from Pinellas. And I will tell you that there are many, many European visitors who come and are always ask us, how can I take a bus to the beaches? How can I take a bus to anywhere? And we have to tell them you can't. And that's an unacceptable answer. The other thing to remember is when I talk about international growth, we're going to get flights internationally because we're behind. So we're going to get what we really deserved. But for us to go forward, for us to grow into the future, we have got to have a world-class transit system to attract young people, create jobs, and create a future for us so that we can have more visitors come, so that we can have more travel, more opportunities. We cannot stay stagnant. And that concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd be happy to entertain them.
Mr. Lopano, thank you so much for your leadership. You are making one of the best airports in the nation into one of the best airports in the world, if not the best.
Thank you.
I want to ask our staff to make sure that PowerPoint's available on our website if we could.
Mm-hmm.
A great plan. I've seen your presentation before. I just want to reemphasize a connection to TIA is something that we hear a lot of requests from Pinellas County, and that's just going to be an outstanding increase in service for our citizens. Thank you so much for your leadership. I know some of our board members have some comments for you. Commissioner Newton?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Brown, for coming over. I was at your reception, your welcome reception when they first brought you in over at TIA, and you seem exuberant and excited, and even more so today. So it haven't worn you down yet.
Yeah, no, that's not going to happen.
Also enjoy spending the day with you with Congressman Micah down in Miami as we visit their intermodal facility, and they're doing just this. They showed how they got all the traffic out of the airport, how it's decongested, and how they was able to gain more just moving the rental cars out, and that's phenomenal. As far as the master plan, I think that's beautiful the way you presented it, and I didn't even know it was a third of the traffic coming from Pinellas County. That's news to me. That's a lot of people. And as to the buses, I mean, we just got back from Seattle. That was National League of Cities, and you're exactly right. There's no beaches in Seattle, but they do have pontoon bridges. We saw that. So, but in traveling to these different cities, Denver, Phoenix, and also Boston, we left Boston, my wife and I, from National League, I think a couple years ago, and we came out of the hotel, walked about, I don't know, it had to be about 500 feet to the Silver Line, which was a modified bus that operated in the tunnels. The gentleman rode about a mile, came out of the tunnels, put the clamps down on the bus, drove into the airport, and when it got close to the airport proximity, this is a city bus, it started like a trolley, like a monorail, if you would. It started saying, now approaching Blue Terminal for Delta, Northwest. And I'm sitting there going, wow. And so we got to go right to the curb on the bus and go right to the plane. It was phenomenal. I don't think we ever rented a car, not knocking rental cars, in any of the other cities that we went that had reliable mass transit and transportation options. So I applaud you, sir, and you sound like a commercial for Greenlight yourself. Thank you, and love the tie.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Vice Chairman Johnson.
Thank you, and thank you for coming over and presentation, and I enjoyed the trip to Miami with you and some of the other members too. I recently heard a story that alleged that the Travelers Aid, their station in the airport, the number one question they get is, how do I get to Clearwater Beach? I'm pleased that we're going to be going to St. Petersburg, and I'm excited that we're going to be going to Clearwater Beach pretty quick too. And if that's the number one question that you folks get.
Well, there are many people, especially as I said, the people from overseas, international travelers expect a mass transit option. If you travel to foreign airports, especially European airports, there's at least a train, if not buses, to just about everywhere. So that's what they expect when they come here. They ask those types of questions. But I would tell you that I think success breeds success. It's like the international flights that we're getting at the airport. Once we bring an international flight and it's doing well, other international airlines are like, what did I miss? Why am I not there? I think when we have the bus from St. Pete, it's going to be full, especially with the Wi-Fi, which you're going to vote on today. That's a brilliant move. Because people, when they can be productive on the bus, it doesn't matter if it takes 20 or 30 or 40 minutes. As long as I'm able to work and communicate, it just enhances the whole experience. So
the commute.
Anything else? Jeez. All right. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chairman. Commissioner Long?
Yes, Mr. Lopano, I just want to say thank you so much. Sometimes in life, things just are providential, and I consider your being here today almost a providential intervention, because your work at the airport is such a profound definition of the word vision, leadership, and courage, and I think our board can really benefit from that today. Thank you so much for being here.
I don't know if we can go back a couple of slides to show the express routes, but I wanted Brad just to talk about the connections that we're anticipating.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Welch, and thank you too to Joe for including this slide. As it shows on this map here, as Joe mentioned, the Green Line Pinellas plan includes several express routes to the airport and to downtown Tampa. Right now we have 2 that go to Tampa only Monday through Friday. So all of these services are planned to go 7 days a week and to try to capture the times that the flights run, which is pretty much, from 5 to 10.
Yep.
Because you have to, when you land at the airport, you want to make sure that you can get to where you need to go. So the Greenlight Plan has a phased plan for implementing, as Mr. Johnson said, from Clearwater Beach to the airport, and from downtown St. Pete to the airport. You can see there's another Ulmerton Road connection to the airport, and then there's from northern Pinellas County, park and rides, and then over Tampa Road down the Memorial to the airport. The West Shore Multimodal Center is the key, and so it is a very important component to put in place. The one issue that exists right now is that if we want to provide service to downtown Tampa and to the airport, it takes we estimate about 10 minutes to get off, go up to the airport, drop off the customers, pick up customers, and come back down, and then go on to Tampa with the same bus. So really, to provide the better direct connection, you have to have separate routes serving the airport and downtown Tampa. Once we have that the multimodal center in place, where you can basically check, you can take your bags right there and then get on a people mover right to the airport, then it's actually much more efficient, because then the service can take people from Pinellas to the airport, and then folks that want to go to downtown Tampa also can keep going on the same route. So that star there becomes a brighter star, I think, once the West Shore Multimodal Center is in place.
Okay. Thank you, Brad, for reviewing that. Final question, what's the timing on the rental car center? What's your target completion date?
Hopefully, we'll all be there celebrating in October of 2017.
2017.
That's been our date, and I will tell you that we have a fantastic contracting team on board. We are moving at pace, not too fast, not too slow, just at pace to hit that date. We're so far on budget and on time, so I'm happy to report that. The other thing, Brad, to your point about the buses, with all these buses, the people now have an option to either drive your car and rent a parking space from us, or you can take a bus. And if, I know parking can be expensive, sometimes $100 to park at the airport. Mm-hmm. You can ride this bus, so it's going to save people money.
Yeah.
And it's going to save me money, because as we grow 20 years, I don't want to keep on building parking garages. They're pretty expensive. So if we find other solutions, it's even better for the community. Thank you very much for having me here today, and I wish you all well with what you are bringing forward.
Mr. Lopano, thank you so much for your leadership. We appreciate it. I'm sorry, we had one more comment for you, Mr.
Lopano. I just wanted to share with you, we just did a unveiling last week for UPass for the St. Pete College students. So they all get to ride the bus service free. And 2 weeks prior to that, the city of St. Pete, over 2,800 employees get to ride the whole system. So that's going to be an added advantage to what they're doing there. So,
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thank you, Mr. Lopano. Thank you, Commissioner Newton. We'll now move on to item 6, which we've touched on a little bit, but I wanted to have an opportunity just to pause and talk with the board. As you all know, because of sunshine, we cannot talk directly. But if I were to use a sports analogy, which I know Commissioner Latvala loves,
Roll Tide.
No, not Roll Tide. If we were entering the fourth quarter, there's a break between quarters, and the team huddles up and just makes sure that everybody's on the same page in terms of the game plan, in terms of any adjustments we need to make. And I think that's where we are right now. We've been running hard as an organization for years to get to this point. And we can go back to the PMI, for folks that remember that, the alternatives analysis, the community bus plan, coming together with the Greenlight committees, coming up with a consolidated plan, getting that approved by the MPO, PPC, other organizations, and before the county commission, getting the referendum schedule. So it's been a long run. I think now we can pause just for a moment in these final, I think Commissioner Long said 70 days. I don't know if you were counting early voting or not, or vote by mail. But just to make sure we're on the same page, and the events of the last month kind of added to that. And as your chairman, I wanted to lay this out so that when we got here today, we were prepared for everybody to weigh in on these items if we need to. As it says in the memo, there are just 4 points there that I wanted to lay out. The first is something that you don't have to say, but it's almost like being in a relationship. If you never say I love you, the person might not know it. So it's worth restating that service delivery is our priority, and that's what this organization is all about. I do want to say, and Brad, you were supposed to remind me, that Brad and I worked on this memo together. We're in agreement on these issues, and I've got confidence moving forward that we're going to be successful in making some adjustments that we need to and reaffirming our mission. Brad, did you want to make any comments before I jump into these 4 points?
Yeah, let me do that. First of all, thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Welch. As he said, he and I worked on the memo together, and I appreciate his inviting me opportunity to help weigh in on his comments and recommendations. I also want to thank the PSTA board, certainly over the last month, but also really over the last 2 or 3 years. The board members here, or even ones that were here before, have worked and have been more involved in what is going on at PSTA, and especially developing the Greenlight Pinellas plan than ever before. It would not be where we are today without the board members' work outside of the Wednesday morning meetings. I know that. And I do believe, and I think Commissioner Long said this, if you think back to where we were and where we are now, we are where we hoped we would be when we started this, when you all started this plan. So in that context, I do agree with Commissioner Welch's comments that PSTA does have a mission. Its mission statement is, and my mission as the CEO of PSTA is to provide affordable and safe public transportation services. And it is appropriate that, especially right now, as he said, 70 days away from November, that we have a focus on that, and we maintain a focus on that no matter what, because that is our core mission. Over the past few weeks, there have been mistakes made that, as the CEO of this agency, I do take responsibility for. But we are developing plans. We have already developed plans to make sure that myself already, and then the entire organization learns from those experiences and makes a better transit system in the future, and develops a plan so that those mistakes don't happen again. I do think this idea of pausing and focusing on our core mission does help us get our focus back, because that's what I know I'm committed to as the CEO, and I think I know the staff is committed to, is continuous learning, continuous improvement. That's what the benchmarking program is all about that we are involved in, constantly getting better than we were the day before or the month before, and improving transit services. I have been at PSTA for 3 years, and in those 3 years, thanks mostly to this board, to the board's involvement over that time, I know PSTA is better than it was. I think in almost every area we are making improvements. We have developed the first 5-year balanced budget plan in the agency's history. We have developed the first 5-year capital improvement program in the agency's history. I'm really very proud that later on in this agenda we're going to be presenting the best budget that I've been able to present to you all since I've been here, because we are providing increased services, as Mr. Lopano said, new services to the airport, and services in South St. Pete. And we are investing in our employees, not just with compensation increases for the first time in several years since the recession, but also in training. We have expanded service. We've actually expanded services every year I've been here. In St. Petersburg, in St. Pete Beach, and up in North County, and just last year in Safety Harbor. Our new UPass program is doing great in its first week or 2 weeks. Hundreds of new people, mostly new students, are riding the bus that weren't riding a month ago. And that looks like it's going to be thousands of new people riding that weren't riding. And most of all, we have, as Commissioner Welch has said, spent a lot of time out in the public developing a thoroughly vetted, well-designed, publicly supported Greenlight Pinellas plan that puts us right now, 70 days out, on the cusp of putting PSTA and the transit services of Pinellas County even at a whole new level of improved service to our community. So again, any organization makes mistakes. We have made mistakes, but we are learning from them. We have learned from them. We have developed plans to rectify those and to make sure they don't happen again. We do have challenges ahead. There will always be challenges ahead. We have labor negotiations. We have a plan to improve our customer service. We are making improvements in the maintenance program right now. But that's what we do. That's what we are trying to do. Work every single day to find solutions to problems, and make PSTA more efficient, better, and more responsible to the community. That's what I'm committed to, and that's what I commit to doing. I do just want to say that. I think Commissioner Welch can talk about his memo and the recommendations, but that is a commitment that I do make.
Thank you, Brad. We appreciate those comments. Okay, so the first item is just reaffirming our service delivery mission. That's our highest priority as well as our staff's. That's just really a restatement of our mission. Any board comments on that? We have consensus on that?
Yes.
Okay. Next item is communication and board direction. And as I stated, I believe our staff has been running so hard and in some areas making some responses to external issues that I don't think the staff really needs to. But communication, particularly with the chairman in between meetings, it's hard for Brad to get with 15 board members, but on emerging issues or anything that's could be a potential issue, Brad and I have agreed to make sure that we have that communication going constantly. The paper attributed it to me, but it's actually Brad's idea to give us a weekly update via email, which I think is a great idea. As we're out there in the community, we know on a weekly basis we have an update from Brad. And that's really the improvements we want to make in board direction, and that's ongoing, not just until the election. Same thing with service delivery. That's a restatement of our mission, not just up to November 4th. So any questions or comments on the communication and board direction? Commissioner Newton?
I just want to say I do get, we do get rather quick communication from Brad when there's something going on. I know he can't speak to all of us because of the sunshine, but we do know about it. We get emails, sometimes texts that we know that things are happening. And what I like is the quick response to anything, even a public record request, no matter how ridiculous. they get right back to it. You know, nothing's too small, nothing's too minute to address, and do it in a timely manner and a professional way, and that's important.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Any other comments, suggestions? Commissioner Mertz?
Yeah, just to reiterate, I think it says every Friday between now and November 4th, and I think what's important is also to say and beyond, because I understand this is a big project and a lot of effort, and regardless of what happens in November 4th, there's a lot of stuff going on, and I like this focus. And to me, this provides, to me, more confidence in the future.
Absolutely.
And so with things like this, getting better communication, make it more transparent, getting that word out, and making sure it's not just between this focus point, it's beyond as well.
That's a great point. Everybody on board with that?
Yes.
Brad, you can handle it ongoing, every Friday?
We'll
You've got
do
an
our best.
iPad, it's always with you. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Mertz, that's a great idea. Any other comments on this item? Mr. Vice Chair.
Just one, and that's that with 15 members on the board, it is a bigger challenge, so this weekly update, I think, would be very appropriate. I have been impressed with whenever something does happen, Brand sends us a very complete report, whether it's good news, bad news. We get that. We have gotten that in the past. And I appreciate that. So I think this is just enhancing that solid base.
All right. Thank you. Anything else on this item? We all in agreement? Yes. Okay. Next one is the green light information oversight issue, and this is going back to some of the conversation that's been out there, going back to the FDOT Inspector General audit and just which showed that we were in full compliance in terms of education and not advocacy. It's important is that as we get into the print and radio campaign, that those are clearly on the educational side of the ledger. And so I thought it would be good to have another pair of eyes to review those materials before they go out. Brad has agreed that we'll look at those. I thought adding an additional set of eyes in the planning committee would be a good idea as well, because I mean, sometimes you can look at things and not see something, someone else walks in and immediately say, what about this? So I would turn to the planning chair and ask if you think that's something that adds value, or if there are other ways to make sure that we've got that additional oversight.
As the chairman, I'm happy to do whatever is necessary. I do get concerned we're only meeting 2 more times. That doesn't mean we can't meet more often. Another suggestion had come to my attention late yesterday that whether it be the planning committee or just the executive board of this board do it, which might be actually more beneficial because you would be included as part of that.
That could be more efficient.
And we would just, as the 3 members versus you, and then the 5 members of planning could meet extra times or whatever.
Okay.
That might work.
I think that makes a lot of
better.
sense. Okay.
But yes, I'm happy to participate and do whatever is necessary.
Everybody understand the purpose of this, and just trying to have another set of eyes on this. Commissioner Long and then Commissioner Maroney.
Yes, and while I do agree that lots of set of eyes on these kind of issues, especially considering where we've been, is a good idea, I worry that with the length of the short time frame that we have going forward, that we don't take what's happened over the last month and overreact to the point where we strangle our own initiative. I am assuming, and Brad, please correct me if I'm wrong, that we have professional designers and graphic artists and people who do this kind of thing for a living in terms of messaging, that once they come forward with a design or creative piece, that between you and our chair and the people who are your staff here, that those are many eyes working on a final product. It's just very difficult when you're talking, those of us that have actually done any of this kind of work, it's very difficult to get groups of people to agree. You're talking about, and many times, artistic talent and different ways of messaging something, and so I'm happy as our chair of our planning committee, which I also sit on, to do whatever the majority wants, but I just would caution us against overreacting when we have a long history now of doing things really well. Let's just, as you said, Chair, keep the focus on our mission and keep moving forward without necessarily micromanaging everything.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I probably didn't say that right, but I think you understand what I'm saying.
No, you stated a good concern, and I didn't clarify. This is not about wordsmithing or picking colors or, artistry. It's just making sure we've got to look at it and say, yes, that's clearly educational and not advocacy. But your point's well taken.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Maroney?
Thank you for clarifying that, because I was going to actually ask you after Commissioner Long's comments. But this extra set of eyes, and this, if it is the executive board, if we decide to do that, that meeting will be open to the public, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, okay, great. I just want to make
Absolutely.
sure that everything we do is transparent. People have an opportunity to say yay or nay. That's why when the board voted to put it to the public, we're giving them an opportunity to say yay or nay on it. So this is another opportunity for them to express their views.
Thank you, Commissioner Maroney. Commissioner Latvala?
Thank you.
Yes.
Twice today, Commissioner Long has taken words out of my mouth.
I must be learning.
Which is really nice. But I want to commend you and Brad both for what you've brought forward. Again, I agree with Commissioner Long that we don't want to emphasize a small thing that happened. I won't rehash that, but you have put together a very thoughtful plan, recommitting us to our mission, recommitting us to our way of work, and the next 70 days, how we're going to behave, how we're going to handle those. I would like us to, the board, and maybe you had already planned this, but I would like us to vote to show our support for you and Brad and for this program that you've brought forward. It's obvious we're all in harmony here, and we always have been. And we always have been supportive of the person we elect to chair these meetings, as well as our CEO. But I would move that we vote to affirm our support of Commissioner Welch as our chairman,
Second.
Brad Miller as our CEO, and the thoughtful message that Commissioner Welch and Mr. Miller have brought to us this morning.
Second.
Well, thank you, Commissioner Latvala. And I'm sure Brad as well appreciates that support. I think we've done tremendous work as an organization, and we'll continue to do that. Let me ask, we got one more item to hit, but are we leaning towards the executive committee? Let me get
I think so.
let me get Commissioner Rice and then Vice Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Latvala. I think you took the words out of my mouth.
We're all on the same page.
Yeah.
And we need to affirm that.
Yes, yes. Just one thought I had regarding the having the extra set of eyes. I think that's an important step in addition to the weekly email coming from Brad. I guess I'd feel a little bit more comfortable with it if we just could get a little bit more specific. We don't have to get into it right here and now. But basically, we're talking about compliance issues. And there could be like a checklist or something more specific we could look at when reviewing the ads. So I would just like to have a more formalized process rather than just saying, oh, let's have more sets of eyes look at it. Let's maybe have a specific place on the agenda. Maybe that takes place in a planning committee, but we have someone who's really specifically tasked with compliance issues and how comfortable the committees are with what's going out.
Okay. Brad has a comment on that.
Yeah, and thank you for those comments. So just at least, and maybe you can clarify if you feel comfortable with this as sort of the logistics of how we envision this working. To your comments, Commissioner Rice, we do have our legal counsel review every publication that PSTA produces related to, well, at all, which is mostly about Greenlight. So we do rely on Alan and his folks to vet and make comment on every piece we do. That's really the place that we're looking for compliance with the Florida law on non-electioneering material. The idea behind this second set of eyes, at least is my recommendation, is to have the executive committee schedule probably will be just 2 meetings in early September to take a look at the remaining Greenlight outreach initiatives that PSTA is considering for the last 70 days. relatively limited in scope, but that we're talking about doing an insert in the newspaper, which is basically the Greenlight Pinellas plan, kind of the details. We're talking about possibly doing some radio commercials and some more telephone town halls like we've done. And we would, the executive committee can hopefully get together kind of and not necessarily review like has been described wordsmithing, but the concepts, where we are, where we feel like we need to get the word out in a better way or a different way, and then we'll just move forward with that. Because, come mid-September, there really won't be a time to really come up with new things or develop new avenues than what we already have underway.
Thank you, Brad. Commissioner Rice, does Alan's review address your concerns? Would you like to?
Not exactly.
Okay.
I think that Mr. Zemet is a great resource to provide technical guidance on what we can do, and I'm interpreting the second set of eyes process as a leadership exercise on whether we should do something.
And I won't use that analogy, but I think we know it when we see it.
Okay.
Whether it's educational or informational,
right,
or advocacy. And so I think if it's the executive committee, we'll come to a comfort level. Yes, this is far enough on the education side that it won't be a problem. So.
Got it.
So are we agreeing to have the executive committee fill that role?
Yes.
The extra set of eyes. Okay, everybody on board with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Chairman Welch, may I raise a point of order?
Since we are voting, I will hear you. We were not voting before. The last item is just adapting to a higher profile. We've already seen it, that we've got a higher profile. I mean, before you rarely saw folks at PSTA meetings going years back. And when Greenlight hopefully is approved, there's just going to be greater scrutiny. Got a comment, Mr. Diamond? Okay. And so it's just a kind of, again, a restatement of we ought to be open. We ought to deal with problems if they're identified in a clear way. And there will be problems on a project this big. There will be problems, and we just need to address them in an upfront way. Analyze a problem, fix it if it is indeed a problem. I also just wanted to mention that the TRAC and the Greenlight Oversight Committee are important parts of adapting to that higher profile as well. So that's just more of a commentary on where we're going. Any comments or thoughts on that? Everybody okay with that general statement?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry, Mr. Vice Chair.
I had really was directing a comment at the previous thing.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I don't object to the way we're going. I see that as a delegation of the board authority on an interim basis under our rule 2.08, which says, hey, we can delegate. The tradition, as everybody else has said, the people before you have asked the questions. I did want to mention that we do have the attorney review currently now, and in the area that I would ask for a little bit more transparency on is the policy issue and I would want that to be brought forward for these executive committee meetings. So we focus in on the policy that we're trying to implement.
Yeah.
And if I may ask a question
Yes,
as well?
Please.
I believe I already know the answer, but I just want to check. Alan?
Yes.
The advertising items are already items that are approved in the budget, and they are items, I believe, under the amount that would be in the purview of our CEO for spending. So I'm asking you the question, if the things that Brad brings forward to the executive committee for that second set of eyes, that does not have to come back to the full board
Correct.
because of the reasons I just stated?
Yes, it's within his spending authority and under the rules and regulations that you've adopted.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're following
Yes.
authority and making sure that we're not trying to put forward authority that we don't have.
Any contract that involving advertising that's over $100,000 has been brought to the board and approved by the board. So I'm not going to say there aren't any that haven't gone over the 100,000, but they've all been brought to the board. The only expenditures that I'm aware of that Mr. Miller has authorized that have not been approved by the board were under $100,000, which is the amount that the board set in the rules and regulations.
So the executive committee is not doing anything.
The executive committee, as I understand it, is not being asked to review the procurement itself, but the actual substance of the advertisement.
Content.
So it's not really within that policy that's contained within the rules and regulations.
Okay.
So we don't need that delegation?
I don't think you need official delegation of that authority. I think Brad certainly has the authority to bring it to the executive committee if he wishes to have them exercise, as your terminology, a second set of eyes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So everything on here is really not a voting item. These are administrative. As I go down the list, service delivery, that's
Yes.
policy, communication, that's.
I mean, you certainly can take a vote if you want to, just to confirm.
Well, we're not
your-
voting on the memo. We're voting on a separate motion just to.
Affirming our support.
Right. Do we have to take comments on that kind of a motion, affirming support?
Yes, under the
Okay.
change of to the sunshine law, you have to take comments on any motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, I'm sorry,
I just had a
Commissioner
comment,
Diamond,
too.
you're way out there on the left. I'm
That's
sorry.
quite all right. Before you went into public comment, I just wanted to raise my hand and echo the comments of Commissioner Latvala. I wanted to thank you for this memo. I think it's extremely well done. I just wanted to add a thought that echoes some of the comments that were previously made, which is the importance of the committee meetings for the board in this process. I'm a new member of the board, but what I've learned about PSTA, I've learned quite a bit through the committee process, and I'm going to try to attend more committee meetings, including the ones that I'm not officially assigned to. I think you hit the nail on the head when you said that when problems are identified, they should be acknowledged, analyzed, and if needed, corrected. And I just wanted to ask, with regard to the grant compliance issues, those seem to fall under the Finance Committee's purview. Am I correct in thinking about that? I guess what I'm asking is sort of what can we be doing on the grant compliance piece to go back and look at how we're managing grants, how we're making sure that our grant compliance is being handled correctly, and is there a role for a committee in that process?
I think you're correct. That would fall under the Finance and Performance Management Committee's purview. They already receive and make the recommendation on the annual audit, and now the CAFR, the Comprehensive Financial Reports, and they get quarterly updates on our capital program. I think that's exactly where I will ultimately present some recommendations on how we might better develop our overall project management, including grant compliance, but project management to make us better moving forward.
Well, that's great. And my point is just that I think the committees are a great tool for us as board members to be involved in that work. So, and I want to commend you again on this memo. I think it's well done. And
Thank you, Commissioner Diamond.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So we are all up on the game plan in terms of this memo. No issues. Okay. Commissioner Latvala, do you want to restate your motion?
Yes. The motion is to affirm our support of our our chairman, our vice chairman too, and secretary, our
you.
chairman Ken Welch, and our CEO Brad Miller, and the actions and way of work that is described in this memo.
Second.
Affirming our support.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second on that affirmation. Mr. Rask, ask you to speak to the motion.
Yes, thank you. Well, I have to speak to the fact that I was denied the right to speak.
I need you to
first.
speak to the motion.
Yeah, right.
We were
Well,
not
it's-
voting when you first put your card in. Now we are voting on an issue, and we require public comment on that.
But you've also, sir, had other votes here. If you go to the tape, you asked.
You've got 3 minutes, sir, so
I
your
know.
time is running.
Right, and we had other votes here. If you go to the tape, you'll see yourself saying, are we in agreement? Several people saying yes. It seems to me that's a vote. And it is an action item now, and it's not listed under action items on the agenda. It's listed somewhere else. So someone who wanted to come here and talk about it couldn't because they would not be allowed to, and now it is an action item, okay? So academic research and just talking to people shows you that people are comfortable with whatever outcome you get as long as there's a fair process. That's really what we're talking about here. Those of us who oppose Greenlight Pinellas oppose it on policy, but also...
It's not Greenlight Pinellas. Speak to the motion, please.
But also on the fairness of the process, whether the process is followed. Your own Board and Rules of Regulation 2.05E says that you shall take public comment on action items. And again, I want to point out, I have a card here where PSTA staff said no comments. I asked to comment on chairman's comments. And the PSTA staff wrote no comments on information items, only action items. It's not listed as an action item. So this is really at the core of why there is a lot of distrust of PSTA. You're going to vote the way you're going to vote. I'm not going to try to tell you how to vote. I think it's an important moment. I think we all realize why many citizens feel this way, and I hope you do too, and that you now, and I want to thank Chairman Bajalski, Board Member Bajalski for mentioning the word oversight before, because that's what this is about. And also that when items come in where an issue is raised, that before you shoot it down and criticize it, that you look at it, whoever the opponent is. So I think this is a clarifying moment, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rass. Commissioner Latvala?
I would like to rescind my motion and not make this an action item. It wasn't advertised that way. Doesn't mean that I'm not going to ask, and Commissioner Welch, I'm going to say this. You don't have to participate. It wasn't advertised as that. We're taking public comment anyway, but just to be in an abundance of caution, I would like to ask, instead of doing it the way we had just said, formal motion and a vote, I just would like to ask all of my colleagues to raise your hand if you agree with the comment that I made. Okay.
It's a vote.
It's not a vote. You know, I am so tired of the ridiculous scrutiny. We're trying to be a collegial board and work to improve public transportation in our community. And the public is invited, is here, is listened to, is encouraged to participate every single step of the way. I thought I was doing a good thing. You know, good things are being done by our staff, by our board, our chairman, and I wanted us to all go, yay, we support you. Thank you for what you're doing.
And
that's all.
Commissioner Latvala, I appreciate the thought, and that was in response to comments that were made under public comments. And that's why that particular vote was not on the agenda. Look, we don't need to do this. Dr. McCaleb has a card. I'm going to hear Dr. McCaleb again. We heard the comments. That's fine. Again, maybe I'll get another caricature, and I'll have to show you the caricature they did. But, let me just finish the thought. We need to be calm and be focused on our task. And 3 minutes of additional comments that we might not agree with are not going to move us off course.
Not at all.
So,
just information.
Commissioner Newton.
Mr. Allen, if we have an information item, okay, and we just have information's coming to us, that prohibits the board from making any motions or anything like that? Are we prohibited from doing that?
No.
Because it was not advertised?
No.
Is that not what?
As long as the action is not one that otherwise there's a statute that requires you to have a advertised public hearing. For example.
So with this being an informational item, and one of the members opted to do a motion that they thought of, that has a bearing on this? Change it for informational, and it should have been advertised? Is that, because that's the argument that's being made?
No, there's no requirement with the motion that was made by Commissioner Latvala that that'd be advertised ahead of time, that you'd have to wait till the next board meeting to do it, that it'd have to be on the agenda. There's absolutely no requirement to that.
Because of the type of item it is.
Yes.
But the only
most items that this board would hear do not have to be advertised ahead of time. are not required that you put them on an agenda ahead of time. If something comes up at the meeting and you want to address it, you are free to address it, so long as, if it's an action item, that you allow public comment on it.
Okay, that's
Unless
what
it's something like just adopting minutes.
And then I will say that I don't think our organization needs to be on the defense. I think we need to be on the offense, and I don't think you should rescind your motion.
No, I just want to be, I just want to be clear that if we meet in the sunshine and it's an informational item, and one of us, it doesn't prohibit one of us from making a motion, as long as the public gets to weigh in before we vote. Is that the correct procedure?
Correct.
And that's all I was asking. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you for that clarification, Commissioner Newton. Folks, we've got some important items to get to on the agenda, so let's move forward. Commissioner Latvala, you can think about whether you want to move forward with your motion or not. In the interim, we're going to hear from Dr. McCaleb.
Dr. McCaleb, St. Pete, just as a point of order, this motion belongs to this board. It cannot be rescinded by the maker. It has been seconded. Check your rules of order.
Thank you.
What you have asked for is to support the CEO of this organization and the chair of this organization that have lied to you. And you all raise your hands. Yeah, I like that. I like people who lied to us. We're going to support them. We just heard from Commissioner Latvala. She doesn't want ridiculous scrutiny. Well, I guess the only scrutiny that's ridiculous is the stuff that exposes the lies, that exposes the corruptions. What you don't want is any scrutiny of the truth. And what happens at this commission is that you put politics over public service. Your modus operandi is ignore, attack, and obfuscate. If someone exposes the truth, you attack them. You'll go back years to attack them. If someone calls for your resignation about lying to the board during a public meeting, you point to a problem with a citizen in the past. Well, that's a pretty low bar. And if that's your bar for resignation, you far exceeded that bar for resignation, both Mr. Miller and Commissioner Welch. So maybe you should look at the facts that I put before you that you have not even looked. Maybe you should look at the fact that Mr. Miller told Commissioner Drayton on June 24th that yes, Department of Homeland Security had reviewed the ad and everything was fine. And then on his August 1st memo, he said, nope, I can't even get in touch with these people to look at the ad.
I need you to speak to the motion, please.
Is correct.
Speak to the motion, please, Doctor.
We heard from Mr. Welch, the man that you are asking to support in this motion, that any revealing of these facts was misinformation, was not fair. How can you trust, and more importantly, how can the voters trust people that put politics over their duty to the public? They cannot. And if you support them in this position, each of you are just as guilty as they are. Mr. Welch proudly proclaimed his approach to being chair of this board, displaying his Facebook memo. Keep calm and support Greenlight Pinellas. Politics of the Greenlight Pinellas $148 million tax goes above the truth, goes above protecting the public, goes above protecting the tax dollars. Putting a memo out about how he's going to coordinate the politics on the messaging is more politics by a politician, not a public servant. You cannot, in good conscience, support CEO Brad Miller and Commissioner Welch with their track record of lying and putting politics of Greenlight before the public interest.
Thank you, Dr. McCaleb. You were well-timed, right up to your 3 minutes. This is deja vu. You've made similar accusations about illegal activity going back to our housing trust fund and saying the county. Please, you know, y'all still have a problem with listening to the other side. Going back to many meetings in the county commission, you all cannot listen to the other side. But, you know, I'm not going to argue this. I do want to say that I take issue when you stand there and call me a liar. I take that personally. And I would just invite the public to go back and watch the meeting and see what was discussed and the questions that were asked about that grant. You know, I was reading a scripture that says, you're blessed when you're falsely accused. And so I'm not worried about what you say up there. The people of Pinellas County have elected me 4 times. And in 2012, in the midst of these same kinds of accusations, I received the highest margin of victory ever. So I've got faith in the people of Pinellas County to separate the truth from a political agenda, and that's my response to your personal attack comments. Commissioner Latvala, did you want to make your motion or not?
Hell yes.
Is there a second?
Yes.
We already had a second. The motion was still on the floor.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Commissioner Johnson, did you have something?
I just wanted to continue the second. That
Okay.
was what I was
Let's
before.
Let's get back to business, please. The consent agenda, any items to be pulled?
Move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any questions or comments on the consent? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll now move on to our action item 8A, the Green Light Implementation Oversight Committee. And Cassandra Borchers.
Thank you. Good morning. I will try to get us back on schedule. The next couple items that I will present to you have been through the committee process, so I'd like to give a presentation and then allow the committee chairs to discuss what conversation happened at the committees. So as part of our delivery plan of Green Light Pinellas, and again, pursuing that accountability and transparency, we've talked about a couple different committees of the public to review the Green Light Pinellas plan as well as the progress on that plan. So a few months ago, we talked about the Transit Riders Advisory Committee, and you heard from the new chairperson today. And so that is well underway, and that Riders Committee is hearing things that are coming before the board. During the development of the delivery plan, we also talked about this Green Light Implementation Oversight Committee. And this was a very specific committee to look at the Green Light Pinellas plan and our progress. The purpose of this committee is to help us with implementation, to make sure that the projects that are in the Green Light Pinellas plan are understood by the public and they are credible. Monitor our progress on the milestones that we have committed to, and review our assumptions of the financial plan. When we looked at the Ernst & Young financial plan, we knew that there were assumptions in there, and it was a long-term plan, and we would continually have to monitor and adjust as those assumptions change. And so we would like this committee to take a look at that as well. We have recommended, from a staff perspective, certain professions be included in this committee. We are asking for 7 members from a variety of professions that are involved in the implementation of capital infrastructure. So this would be from the professions we either retired from or engaged in engineering, architecture, planning, legal, banking, finance, marketing, or public relations. We think in the handouts that you have as part of your board package, we've indicated a range of people we think would be appropriate of the 7 to be included as part of that implementation committee. We would ask that this committee meet quarterly to review our projects and review the financial plan, and that their attendance would be required, that they could only miss so many meetings. I believe it's two meetings out of a 2-year term. We would ask that we stagger terms so that if people decided they wanted to not reapply for a term, that we would have some continuity on the committee, and that there would be no term limits, unlike the track where we do have a number of terms that they can be on the committee because that is an extended committee. This committee would be recommended to sunset with the full green light implementation. In that case, it would go about 10 years, and we would allow people to be on the committee because there will be some very significant learning curves when it comes to the information that will be presented, and so we'd like some longevity possible for those committee members. As I mentioned before, we are looking for those key professions, and we had made a draft application that you have in your packet. We would ask for a 500-word statement of interest, but also ask for references. And this goes back to our Green Light Pinellas process, where we would ask for references representing the business, civic, and government committees or those communities. So asking for someone to be have the references from a business organization like a chamber, a civic organization like a homeowners association or something else that they're involved in, a charity, or as well as an elected official of Pinellas County. This was brought to the Legislative Committee, so I'll turn that over to Councilwoman Rice. The recommendations from that committee would be that this committee would report directly to this board. So give advice to this board. It would be a publicly noticed meeting, and that they would help with that annual report to the Board of County Commissioners. They also asked that from a logistical perspective that staff talk to some professional organizations related to the professions requested, and some of those are listed here: chambers, bar association, the American Planning Association, asking for applicants for this committee, as well as we'll be starting to meet come next year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Chair Rice of the Legislative Committee.
I'm sorry, I wasn't, what would you like me to cover?
Oh, sorry. Just to make sure that I got that this is what staff heard from the committee, that this was the recommendations. And
I think you captured it all adequately. The Legislative Committee had the opportunity to review and discuss the importance of having a more technical committee assist and help PSTA have oversight of the Green Light Plan. And I think that the different categories of the people that would comprise this committee were very well thought out, and it came out of our committee with strong recommendation. Do we have any other Legislative Committee members that wanted to add on to that?
I think you did a great job.
Okay. Thank you.
I'll just add on to it. I appreciate the summary. I think you captured our discussion very well, and I'm especially excited about this committee in the sense that it will report directly to the board, because I think it will provide us with another opportunity to have feedback on how we're doing as we move forward with the implementation plan.
Thank you, Commissioner Diamond. Commissioner Johnson.
During the committee meeting, I think there was a discussion about having direct access or being given a chance to give a report to the county commission directly. Was that incorporated in this? I wasn't sure if that was mentioned.
I think it was a discussion at the committee, and I don't think that there was a conclusion about directly going to the Board of County Commissioners. That would be up to this board. But the discussion at the committee was for this committee to report directly to the PSTA board.
Yeah. And the way
you could use that at your discretion at the time.
Participate in that report.
Yeah.
We have a report that's due according to the interlocal agreement to the county commission every year, reporting on the progress, and the discussion at the committee, at least as we received it, was to have the citizen committee participate in that, but not necessarily lose its reporting structure to the PSTA board.
My personal suggestion is that, yes, it should have direct access to the board of PSTA, but I think it is also important that they have access to the county commission if somehow the PSTA is going off in a different direction, and this is basically our compliance oversight. So I don't think it would be objectionable to include that as part of the presentation that we would make annually, but by suggestion.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Scott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just one minor suggestion. It says to make recommendations to the PSTA Board of Directors and the Planning Committee. I would suggest that we include the Finance Committee as well, because the Finance Committee is going to have a lot to do with the implementation of this.
Which, is that a bullet?
That's actually in the first paragraph.
Okay, so you want to add finance to that? Everybody okay with that amendment? And on the reporting, I think having them participate in the annual BOCC update is a good idea.
Okay. That's fine.
Okay. Okay, so any other questions or comments? Brad?
Yeah, I just want to make a comment that I made somewhat at the Legislative Committee meeting as well. I don't know how many of you have been focusing or seeing some of the articles that are coming out of Hillsborough County about the proposed recommendations as they move forward with their plans, maybe in 2016, to improve transit. But there has been discussions about the governance of the HART board, and there was a recommendation by the county executive to reconstitute the HART board, really to be closer to PSTA's design, mainly with elected officials. Right now, the HART board is mainly citizen appointees, and there was at least there were some articles about how the current HART board members were not too excited about that, and that they spoke negatively about feeling like they were going to be relegated to a citizen committee and not being on the HART board. And I think that is a real concern. It's very important the way the PSTA board and the way these committees are set up, so that they do have direct access to you, the PSTA board, that they feel responsible. I mean, Elaine did a great job today, and that's what I expect monthly, is that the committee weighs in on things that you're taking action on. And from either the writer's perspective or from this other citizens group that's looking at maybe sort of the overall implementation of the Greenlight Plan and as it goes forward. It really is important that it does report to the board. The reason I sort of was hesitant to say it had a completely independent responsibility to the county commission was to not lose that connection to the PSTA board, and that the chair would come and give their feedback on issues that were related to the overall implementation. That it is very important to our whole staff and me, and I know the board, because Mr. Johnson came to the track meeting to hear, get that perspective, right? And it shouldn't be viewed as some committee that is not important, or is incredibly important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions before I ask for a motion? Okay, is there a motion which includes there's not a good acronym for that, Greenlight Implementation Oversight Committee with the addition of the Finance Committee to the first paragraph per Commissioner Scott?
Second.
Okay, we have two public comments. David McCaleb.
Yes, thank you for trying to give lip service to oversight of Greenlight Pinellas. It's needed. I would ask this board, members here, to make a motion to amend this plan so that no member with a conflict of interest may serve. You may have policy already that covers that. There will be disclosure on conflict of interest. But you should state specifically that on this committee of legal people, bankers, engineers, and the like, that none of them stand to make, nor do their relations, either personal or business, stand to make a dime on implementation of Greenlight Pinellas. I ask you to have the courage to do that. I've seen the conflicts of interest. I served on the Chamber of Commerce Transportation Task Force. And when the motion came up to support the Greenlight Plan, I asked everyone in the room who had a conflict of interest to recuse themselves from the vote. No one would. People making money on Greenlight to build train tracks, to sell apartment buildings so it can be run over by the new train tracks, to do the legal work for Greenlight Pinellas, none of them would recuse themselves on the Chamber of Commerce. I ask you to set a higher standard for the PSTA because we know transit-oriented development is the goal. We know lots of people are going to make lots of money off of the 14% sales tax hike on the poor and the middle class to help the rich and the well-connected build around the half-mile radius around the train stations. That's what this is all about. You've said it over and over. That's why Duke Energy, that will supply the electricity for your car, has donated $50,000 after socking the ratepayers with a 7% rate hike to the Green Light campaign. That's why the National Association of Realtors has put in $250,000 to support the Green Light campaign because of their conflict of interest. Those sorts of people should not be serving. Now, you've just demonstrated that this board cannot be trusted to give the proper oversight and to avoid conflict of interest by just agreeing to reaffirm your support for your CEO and your chair who have been caught lying about DHS grant money. So you need to have more limitations on your power. Which one of you will have the courage to put in there that no one with a conflict of interest shall be able to serve on this committee? And we heard a lot of scripture today. I love scripture. Jesus is my Savior, my Lord. And I will tell you, there will be a day of judgment. And those who call evil good and lies truth will be held to account. And I'll just point out this, that even though we heard about the poor being served, Jesus never went to the Romans and asked for a handout. Not once. Not like these cronies are doing now to get money out of the $1.4 billion in new sales taxes on 695,000 new people that will have a conflict of interest serving on this panel. Jesus never went to the Romans to ask for a handout. In fact, he rebuked the Pharisees for their corruption, and he was crucified for it. I see similar behavior here as portrayed in the Gospel of Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCaleb. Next speaker is Tom Rask.
Thank you. The memo talks about, I'm reading here, about promoting credibility for the Green Light program. That, of course, assumes it has credibility in the first place, so I would encourage you to make sure it has credibility before you promote credibility. One of the things, I ran into Mr. Miller at Seminole City Hall here a few weeks ago. I arrived by bike, he arrived by car, and I brought up an issue whereby I've asked about the policy on Facebook. I've asked by email Ms. Raskin-Schmidt. I have not received an answer, and Mr. Miller said he would give me an answer. The question there is the policy on your Facebook page to ban users or not?
I need you to speak to the motion on the floor.
It has to do with the credibility, okay, of the oversight. And this is one item I want to introduce, namely, I would like to know, and I think the public would like to know clearly, is your policy on your Greenlight page, your Facebook page, which is used to promote the Greenlight plan, is it to ban users or not? Simply yes or no would suffice.
The motion relates to the Greenlight Implementation Oversight Committee. That's what the motion is on. We'll get a response to you on Facebook.
It has to do with oversight, and I would appreciate a few more seconds since you cut into my time. So
I want you to speak to the issue on the table.
I am, and this has to do with oversight.
Not Facebook, this committee that we're approving.
And their role is oversight.
They don't have oversight on Facebook.
Okay. Well, do they have oversight on the issue I raised earlier of handing out signs, these two bus drivers? I didn't understand if I was going to get an answer now or via email later, but I would like an answer on that. I'd also like to ask, just interject here for the record, I'd like to know if Mr. Dighton's absence today is excused or unexcused, because it does matter. I want to also touch on, when we're talking about oversight here, it does relate to oversight. Mr. Welch in his recommendations, or Chairman Welch in his recommendations wrote, our CEO and staff too often feel compelled to respond to ancillary issues not related to improving transit service. But ancillary means providing necessary support to the primary activities or operation of an organization. That's a definition. So when we do public records requests, that's primary purpose, not just transit. There are many other things than just providing transit service that are primary to your mission. I also want to clarify to Chairman Welch, in case there was any misunderstanding, my call for you to resign was as chairman, not as board member. And what you're going to hear now is at least me talking about the $10 billion that this plan will cost over 30 years. When you add up the construction costs.
I need you to speak to the committee that we're voting on.
$10 billion, you've heard it now. And I will try real hard to not come here again. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rask. We have a motion and a second. Are there any other comments, Commissioner Mertz?
I do believe that the conflict of interest is a valid question, committee member. I mean, as I recall reading this, there are no elected officials, which I think is a good thing, but this is a committee that is made up of citizens. And I don't know what the conflict of interest rules are, but as an oversight committee, I think that is a valid point, that the conflict of interest of the selected people is something that should be addressed and discussed.
And I agree to that.
Chairman Rice, did that issue come up during your proceedings?
I don't recall. I'd have to review the minutes. It seems to me that participation on any committee of this sort that's created by PSTA under the county, any person appointed to this committee would have to fill out disclosure forms. And also, I know that I sit on the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council. We have to fill out conflict of interest forms in general, and also we're given a blank form before every meeting to fill out in case there's a specific vote that we need to recuse ourselves from. So my assumption was that type of scrutiny was already in place by virtue of the fact that this is created under the auspices of the county. Now, I can't speak for the Chamber of Commerce and their practices, but I can speak for our own.
Mr. Chairman, I believe
Hold on,
that
we got a
Alan,
couple of-
I think Alan wants
Okay.
to.
Counselor?
As a committee created by PSTA, the committee members will be governed by Chapter 112, the Florida statutory ethics provisions that apply to you as well, and so any vote that they take, they would be required to abstain from voting if they had a conflict of interest, as that term is defined by the state legislature in the statute, and so that would be applicable to them.
When we look at the four, and I know I saw some other hands down here, but when you look at the four purposes, provide expertise related to implementation, establish comprehension and promote credibility, review progress on the milestones, and review and make recommendations for revisions to the assumptions of the Greenlight financial plan. It doesn't sound to me like these folks are approving specific projects.
No, they're not necessarily going to be approving projects, but they could conceivably take a vote on something that I guess could benefit their firm that they work for, or if their spouse works for a firm, I guess potentially if, for example, I mean, I'm just trying to conjure up, and maybe this isn't something that would come before them, but if there's a question as to whether a certain contractor is performing in accordance with their contract and there's concern about whether they're proceeding in a timely manner, and the board brings it up and wants to make some recommendation to the PSA board about action intake, and sitting on the oversight committee is somebody that works for that company, that contractor, that would be a conflict. They wouldn't be able to vote. So they are, I mean, there's nothing for you to do with regard to that. And they can sit on the oversight committee under state statute. What they can't do is vote on something that they would have a conflict over.
So the state statute covers what they can participate in.
Yes, since this is a committee that's created by the PSTA board.
Can we make that clear in the recruitment process, or?
You could add that they will be governed by Chapter 112.
But I think it needs to be in plain language so they.
On the application.
Yeah,
on
so
the
folks
application.
understand.
Yeah, we could certainly add some language to the application.
Commissioner Mertz, thank you for that. Dr. McCaleb, thank you for that recommendation. Do we have a motion to approve the committee moving forward with that addition?
Second.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item 8B, Transit Development Plan.
Good morning again.
Morning. Good morning.
As you've seen your planners up here year after year, you know that the Transit Development Plan is a requirement by the Florida Department of Transportation in order for us to be eligible for state grants. And so we're bringing this to you today for your endorsement of the priorities that will be in the transit development plan, understanding that it is essentially the first 10 years of the Green Light Plan is the vision that it will be put into the transit development plan, at least recommended by your planning department. So as I mentioned, it is a state requirement to do a transit development plan. Most of the transit agencies across the state do not have as robust planning department as you have, and so the state makes sure that they do good planning. So it does mandate planning and visioning, which this board and this organization has done over a period of years. It also highlights the agency initiatives and the advancement that we make on those initiatives. We do a major update every 5 years, which is setting our new plan, and then annually we do a progress report to the department about how we are doing on that plan. And we tell them what went well, what projects are advancing, and what are our next set of priorities if we need to change those. This is mostly about our funding opportunities. When we ask for a grant from the Florida Department of Transportation, the first question they will ask us is this project in your TDP? And so that's why anything that we have a vision about needs to be put into this plan. Right now, we receive a number of grants from the state, including formula grants, which come in the form of our block grant. We also get service development grants for new services. And in addition to that, some urban corridor funding, which is also for operations. We have received some park and ride money. And this is also the place where we need to talk about being eligible for the state New Starts program. And this is where the state wants to leverage federal dollars. So if you are part of the federal New Starts process, the state, you are now eligible for the state New Starts program. As I mentioned before, the major update sets new benchmarks, new goals, and our major update is actually due in September of 2015. We have asked the department to advance our major update so that we will give it to them in 2014 so that we can leverage the work that we have already done over the past few years. The elements of the TDP are mirror the efforts that we have put out in terms of the Green Light Plan, talking to the public, assessing the situation that we're in, and creating a vision that assesses that takes into context that situation, and relooking at our mission and goals. It includes a consideration of alternatives. That 10-year implementation plan, as you know, the Green Light is much longer term than that. We also do a peer agency review here. This is, again, something that we are doing as an organization independent of this process, but we are able to leverage it. And then, of course, coordination of other plans. So are we working with the MPO, or are we working with the state, or are we working with our local jurisdictions? And I think we can safely say that yes to all of those. So again, this is incorporating our accomplishments as an organization into this required plan. It includes a discussion of Green Light Pinellas, includes the alternatives analysis, the comprehensive bus study, and our financial analysis. We've also been able to leverage our work with the American Bus Benchmarking Group. In addition, additional work that we did for this TDP is additional rider surveys, and so you'll also see information from that rider survey in the plan when it's complete. And again, public engagement being at the first and foremost of the work that we're doing now, being able to leverage that into the TDP. So if I can't say this enough, the TDP is the Green Light Plan. That is the vision of the organization, and that is the vision that we would like to present to the Florida Department of Transportation to solicit their assistance with those projects in accordance with our financial plan. The projects that we have looked at in the first 10 years of the plan include operations projects, including expanding night and weekend service with our existing fleet, so we would be eligible for service development grants for those services. Increasing our regional services, like we talked about, this in case in point, the 60X, which would now be Clearwater Beach to Hillsborough County. improving frequencies across the system, our new community circulators, and of course our bus rapid transit lines. And these are, remember, this is just the first 10 years. This is the operations side. On the capital side, the priorities include purchasing additional buses to expand the fleet, as well as replacing older buses in the fleet. Includes the bus rapid transit and rapid corridor development, environmental, engineering, construction, as well as new facilities related to all of those bus facilities. Upgrade to our technologies, so this includes our smart cards, our Wi-Fi, our clever devices, those things that are big projects that could turn into regional projects. We can get some attention from the Florida Department of Transportation, and those are specifically called out. And then, of course, the capital side of the rail corridor development. Again, this is the first 10 years of the plan. We will have, in 5 years, we will be able to look at this again, add some things, take some things out that have been accomplished, and reset the benchmark. So with that, I'd like to talk to you about the committee and their discussion, which was to go ahead and approve the plan. And with that, I'll turn it over to the committee chair, Ms. Bujalski.
Madam Secretary?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Cassandra. We felt like it passed unanimously in our committee. We did have some discussion because we did have some public comment on the issue of should we be changing our TDB now prior to green light or after. And we talked about that, and we came to the conclusion that right now, if we do it now, it is a money-saving item for PSTA because we have all the technical work done. And if green light doesn't pass, we can always go and pay to have the TDP updated in 2015. And so there was nothing illegal about it, and it actually put us on the forefront of going for grants and that kind of thing. So we opted to go ahead and approve that, and I can see Brad wants to add to my conversation.
Well, principally, the reason to do it now is because the due date is October 1st, set by the state.
Good reason.
We have to do it.
But the question that had been brought before is do we include green light or not?
Right, right.
And that's what I was trying to explain, part of our discussion. So we did discuss it, and we all approved to, yes, include green light.
Okay, thank you, Madam Secretary. Now, you've got two tables in here, tables 7, 9, and 710. Are those the projects, or is it just a different way of showing the green light plan in totality?
These are the projects that are in the green light plan.
Okay.
These are the projects that are in the first 10 years of that plan, and this is the priority list that we would recommend that we give.
These are the priorities in the tables?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments before we go to public comment? Is there a motion to approve the TDP?
So moved.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. First public speaker is Dave McCallum. Sure.
Yes. I brought up at the planning meeting, I brought up the concern about the fact that even though the TDP may be due on October the 1st, that Mr. Miller said that the TDP, the Green Light Pinellas, will become the TDP. I believe that was a total quote. That the Green Light Pinellas plan would become the TDP, and my concern was, let's let the people vote on this November before the Green Light Pinellas plan becomes the new 5-year plan. So since the plan is not due until next year, the 5-year plan is not due until next year, and that actually what you're on this year is an annual assessment, then let's stay with what we currently have, which is pre-November 4th, because it has not been passed by the people. So let's see if the people's vision is the same as your vision on November 4th. It's on the referendum. Also, if you decide to go forward with this making the Greenlight Pinellas Plan the early version of the 5-year review, you make this the TDP, then I would like to see the PRAG report be included in the TDP along with the Ernst & Young Financial Feasibility Report of December 9th, 2013 is when that PRAG report, I believe, was released to the county, and that should be a part because, of course, the PRAG report, the 4-page complete PRAG report, not the overview, was a check on the Ernst & Young Financial Feasibility Report, and there are conflicts that should be brought to light and that should be included in the TDP if the Greenlight Pinellas Plan, in fact, becomes the TDP. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. McCaleb?
On this transit development plan, again, Dr. McCaleb, St. Petersburg, I'd like to suggest that you amend it in 2 ways today. First of all, I would point out that while you may have had members of the public serve on this group that created this, and they may be able to recuse themselves, it doesn't mean that they can't influence the way others vote. While one's back gets scratched today, their back will get scratched tomorrow. So those people with conflicts of interest should not even serve on such committees. Regarding your development plan, this is about how to implement Greenlight Pinellas. I'd ask you today to pass a motion that says you will create at least a 10-year fund for bus expansion. And that fund will be inviolable. And you may not take money from that bus expansion fund to pay for anything other than your promised bus expansion. We know that rail projects always run out of money. This rail project will, which I'll mention in a moment. The other motion I'd ask you is that any land that is taken for public use will be paid out at highest and best use, not at the market value determined by the property appraiser, but highest and best use. There will be many pieces of property taken by the government in an eminent domain action along Haynes Road, along East Bay, along 62nd Avenue, down in downtown St. Pete, and likely in Clearwater as well. Those property owners should not have to face a government that can seize it at a value lower than highest and best use. Regarding protecting the buses, your own interlocal agreement places the promise for money from Greenlight to be spent on the trains. It then says and or an expanded bus service. In other words, expanding bus service is an option. Rail projects always run out of money. In Charlotte, where CEO Brad Miller was the operations manager for their rail links, they ran out of money after building 1.6 of their lines out of 5 promised. In Utah, which has been widely heralded by this group as a model, they are running out of money. Their quote was that they were expecting $2.6 billion in maintenance costs to be funded, and it's not funded, and that the bus system was robbed for the rail. So will you put your money where your mouth is and create at least a 10-year fund that is inviolable for the expansion of bus service? Or will you protect the corporate cronies who want to build their train and get the development money from the massive tax hike you are foisting on the poor and the middle class for the benefit of those rich and well-developed and well-connected developers? I suspect you won't. If you do, then wonderful. Remember, this train will create transit-oriented development, and it doesn't do it on the south side of St. Pete, so the black community can get on the train. It does it in the downtown rich areas of Clearwater and St. Pete. Protect the bus system. Create that 10-year fund. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McCaleb. Any other public comments? Just for the record, the interlocal agreement with the County Commission guarantees that certain milestones are met, and the bus improvements happen first before the rail. They are guaranteed. At this point, I don't think we have a motion on the floor. Is there a motion?
I think I did.
We did do a motion and a
yeah.
second?
Yeah, we did.
Okay, that's right, and we had speakers. Any other comments or questions? Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick question. Is it customary or maybe required is a better way to put it, to include in the TDP financial assumptions or audit reports or anything like that?
Yes, we do have financial assumptions. They will be the assumptions that are in the Ernst & Young plan the first 10 years. the first 5 years of which are all bus.
Thank you, Commissioner Scott. Mr. Vice Chair?
What was the Pratt report, somebody?
Crab. That was a report commissioned by our former administrator that supported the Ernst findings, and we've got a copy of that.
We have listed at the back of the document all of our reference documents, which are also up on our website, that we have used to create the green light plan will all be referenced in the TDP. So I'm more than happy to put that on there as well.
Okay. Commissioner Scott?
One other quick question. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On table 710 on page 79, where it talks about the 138 vehicles expansion, have you thought about where we're going to put those?
Yes, we have. And that was actually part of the alternative analysis looking at that. The plan calls for them to be housed in this facility, which was actually designed for 300 buses.
Okay.
So
we have 200 now?
We have 200 now.
So at some point, we're going to outgrow it.
Perhaps. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments, Commissioner Mertz?
Yeah, just a question. You indicated that you'll include that report as a reference, but it will also, the contents of the report are, the findings or the substance of the report is included in the body of the report, not just as a reference?
You mean of the Prague report or of the?
Right.
We have a list at the back of all of the supporting documents, so that is where I would suggest we put this. Is it's part of the supporting documents. We can reference it in the document if that's the pleasure of the board.
My concern is that it just isn't a reference, that it's actually referenced in the document so that you could see where it comes from. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Mertz. Madam Secretary?
There is federal guidelines for how we have to submit this report. I just want to make sure that there are federal guidelines of how we have to submit this report. And I want us to do everything everybody wants to do here. I just want to make sure that we're not losing sight that what you've created and what you are creating is following the federal guidelines of what's required when we create a report.
These are state guidelines. We are working with the Florida Department of Transportation transit liaison from District 7 to make sure that we are in full compliance with the state requirements. And in fact, we are going above and beyond the state requirements on a number of issues. And yes, so we are in full compliance.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Any other comments on this item? If not, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we'll go to our 9A information item, the FY15 budget. Ms. Leos? Let's step back for a second.
And it's still good morning, so good morning to the board. Thank you, Cassandra. Next month, the board will be voting on the budget after our hearings, which will be held on September 3rd and September 10th.
Excuse me, can you move the microphone down a little bit? I'm having a hard time hearing you. Thanks.
I'm a little vertically challenged, I apologize.
Still
Anyway,
can't hear you. Put it in your mouth.
They turned on the air.
we good now?
Better.
Better?
Talk loud.
Scream.
That I can do, talk loud. But anyway, next month, the board will be voting on the budget subsequent to our public hearings, which will be held on September 3rd and September 10th at 6 p.m. So I'll make sure everyone will get that on their schedules, and we'll make sure that's sent out to the board. But today, I want to review the budget process, some of the highlights from the budget from 15, and the initiatives that we have. One of the things I'm very pleased to say is that our budget forecast for fiscal 14 and for our budget for 15 is performing better than the Ernst & Young financial plan. It has in there, I am pleased to say, no fare increases, no changes in the taxes. We have, as we've mentioned today, we've budgeted for service improvements. We are investing in our employees, our fleet, and our customer amenities, and of course, the staff is poised to work on green light after November 5th. I'd like to take a look at where we are forecasting for today through fiscal 14. And as of today, we anticipate a surplus at the end of the year of $1.6 million. That surplus will go back into initiatives in the following year. And one of the questions that came up at the planning committee was, how do we look at what we have as in reserves? And we anticipate, after setting aside money for our self-insurance, for our operating reserve of 2 months, for what we will need after Greenlight Pinellas, for the funds that we'll need between when the property tax ends and when we will actually receive sales tax, those monies set aside, we anticipate about $7 million will be left in reserves. And for that, we'll be looking for buying new buses or other initiatives. But as we take a look at where we are this year, we're seeing that revenues are under budget by $408,000. One of the things is that's less than 1% than what we had anticipated, so we're getting very good at budgeting. One of the things I'm pleased to say is that our transfer from reserves is that we had anticipated of $1 million, we are not going to need. So if we go back and take a look at this, our $1.6 million positive is really a $2.6 million positive. Our expenses this year are going to be anticipated to be under budget by a little over $3 million. We've had vacancies. Our insurance recoveries have been very high this year. Diesel fuel was under budget, and we have now locked in for next year, so we've adjusted the budget accordingly. We can see our supplies and miscellaneous, et cetera, are up a little bit, but we've invested in our fleet and in our maintenance. So as we take a look in a summary here, the very first column is your 14 adopted budget, where we anticipated to use $1 million of reserves, as you see on the third line down. The Ernst & Young report mirrored that with the $1 million. What we're seeing now in our forecast is we won't have to use the $1 million. We're anticipating a surplus at the end of the year. Our proposed budget on the third line down includes a reserve transfer of $2.1 million, again, performing better than what Ernst & Young had anticipated at a little over $3 million. As we take a look at some of the variances from year to year, we see tax revenue will be going up $2.2 million, accounting for almost all of the net increases in revenue. That is because the property values have increased. However, when we take a look at where we've been over the last number of years, we're still less than we were in 2007 by about $42.3 million. That equates out a little bit more than what our total operating revenues are. If we take a look at expenditures and where we'll be spending our money and where the increases are, we are investing in staff. As we mentioned, our salaries include merit bonuses, include step increases. Our fringe benefits are going up. Health insurance is going up 6.9%. And this will be the first time that our employees will be participating in that increase. Insurance will be going up, not because the cost of insurance is really going up, but because we're going to have less recoveries. And we're doing that because we have less larger claims that are sitting out there. As you can see, we've got other increases as we go along. And this also includes increases for other services, such as our 727 service from downtown St. Pete to Tampa, which we'll get to in a minute. One of the things that I like to do is, does our budget reflect our mission? And in developing the budget, I like to look at trend analysis. This year we went back a number of years and looked at the history before developing the budget. PSTA participates in the benchmarking group. We also looked at those items to see where we needed improvement. And we also consider our long-term planning. We've got our mission, I've stated up there, and the budget includes things as investing in training for our staff, customer service training, investment in our fleet, in the mechanics and in the shop and equipment. We make it affordable. We're coming up with a UPass program and no fare increases. New services will help improve the quality of life. We take a look at many factors. I'm just going to show you very quickly a couple slides, things that we look at as we put the budget together. Of course, our DART passengers are increasing. And we look at the benchmarking items, we look at our own internal reports, and we see where we need to put our additional resources. For instance, right now, our miles between roll calls are increasing, and we're putting more money towards bus maintenance, shop equipment, more money towards operators, and customer service and safety. When we look at the long-term planning, as Brad has mentioned, we are now looking out a few more years where we will be able to balance the budget, and that's good news. We've looked at the Ernst & Young plan, as I mentioned, and we are on target to it, if not performing better. There are many new initiatives that will be in the fiscal 15 budget, including the new Airport Express, new 22nd Street South service, all buses with Wi-Fi. Pinellas Park Transit Center will be open, and we're looking at emphasis on both safety and customer service, investing in our workforce, and of course our hard work on Greenlight Pinellas. As we go forward with Greenlight Pinellas, we've already talked today about the Oversight Committee. There'll be competitive procurement, and we'll be looking at the downtown St. Petersburg alignment study and approximately $1.2 million set aside for early implementation of these initiatives. Are there any questions on the fiscal 15 presentation?
Debbie, thank you for a great presentation. I was looking back at some older budget documents, and it's just impressive. I think Michael was responsible for some of these improvements as well. The presentation, the budget numbers are getting better, but the presentation has gotten better, and I think, Michael, you started that, but very well presented. Back on, I think it's slide 8 with the ad valorem chart. Was 07 our peak for property tax revenue?
I think so.
I don't know if that was the peak, but was it? Okay.
It was?
Over here.
Okay. Are there any questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Rice?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My question is going up to the next slide on operating expenditures. And I was wondering if you could please clarify, there's two categories. There's one miscellaneous and another one that's other. And together they're almost total $1 million. I was just wondering if you could comment on what goes in each of those
certainly.
categories.
In the miscellaneous area, we have actually $1 million that we've set aside for new initiatives as far as service improvements. So without that, we would have actually reduced cost. The other is just all the little tiny accounts that are up and down by a small amount.
Okay, thank you.
The new airport operating, the new airport route and the other service expansions are in that miscellaneous. That's what that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Rice. Mr. Vice Chair?
So then the services category for $487,000, how is that different than the service improvements in miscellaneous?
Those services represent what we have, repairs and services to our fleet and to our facilities. Those would also include any third-party contracts that we have.
Not service
Not service
expansion.
initiatives.
Right, those are
that
service
are-
contracts, essentially.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Mertz, you requested this overview today. Did you have any?
No, actually, I want to thank Debbie and Michael. Earlier in the week, I had an opportunity to sit down and just go over the budget as well. And, you know, I had a couple of detailed questions pertaining to the trolley, the expenses, which were taken care of. I was happy to see the diesel fuel is set in at $3.07 a gallon, which is a significant savings. You know, and so that's a very good thing. So I as well was very impressed with the overall budget, and thank you for the presentation.
You're welcome.
One item in the draft budget that you gave us on the salaries, they were significantly under budget, if I'm recalling.
That's correct.
What's driving that?
That is driven by vacancies that have not been filled. As we-
I can't.
From vacancies that have not been filled.
Okay. Or is it in a particular category?
Well, we have issues filling bus drivers. So we're going to have an emphasis with a recruiter for next year. We're right now doubling up on our training for bus drivers to help fill that, to reduce the overtime.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on the budget? All right.
Chairman,
I'm sorry?
how many bus drivers are we down, out of curiosity, right now?
Right now,
You know? 26?
26. We're down 26 bus drivers.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear the question.
How many drivers are we down? And the answer was 26.
Thank you.
And that's 26 out of
380?
380?
380? 370.
Okay.
We are constantly hiring and looking for bus drivers.
What's your best source for drivers? Where do they come from?
Our HR is not in the room. Oh, yes, he's there later.
Better come up for the record.
Good morning. I'm
Good
Larry
morning.
Lonnecker, Director of HR. I would say the majority of ours, we are working very closely with WorkNet Pinellas, or as formerly WorkNet Pinellas, Resource, Florida, and working with them through the Veterans Program as well. And we found also quite a few of the job fairs that we've been able to attend with St. Pete College and USF.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Any other questions? Okay, that was an informational item. Thank you, Ms. Leos.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Great
it.
job, thank you.
See you September 3rd is our first budget hearing.
Okay.
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Reports and correspondence. Any updates, Mr. Miller?
Yes. I'll just quickly just highlight a couple of records. First, we had a record ridership in the month of July. And with the UPass coming online, it looks like that'll be hopefully continuing. No, I've lost my notes. We had a record number of hits on our Greenlight Pinellas website, and that probably is a sign to come of more people checking out and learning about the Greenlight Pinellas plan. We also had a record number of texts. Our real-time information system is incredibly successful, and that is we have lower costs on buying in the contract that you just approved today to buy or to print schedules, because more and more people are using the real-time texting information. And finally, I wanted just to highlight two recognitions that our staff is getting. First to Bob Lasher. Bob Lasher is the 2014 recipient of Sierra Club's Florida Osprey Award.
What's an osprey?
He's in the very back there,
corner.
see?
Okay,
Stand
Mr.
up, Bob.
Lasher, you're hiding
He's
back
an
there.
osprey.
Okay,
All right.
well done.
What's an osprey?
It's a award about providing policy improvements. That's what I saw. And then the second one, what I wanted to recognize, and I don't know if he's in the room, is my Chief Operating Officer, James Bradford. James Bradford was named to the 2014-15 class of 25 in Leadership APTA. Leadership APTA, American Public Transportation Association. These are the 25 up-and-coming stars of the public transit industry. I was a member of the Leadership APTA class of 1998, I think, or 7, and it's gotten a lot harder since then. But I understood that there was about 75 applicants from around the United States, and so I'm really happy to sponsor and that James can be that. I'm a little worried because the graduation ceremony is always just filled with recruiters, vultures, and but James is definitely a worthy member of that. With that, the rest of the report stands.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Any questions?
I just had one
Yes.
comment in regards to Mr. Lasher. I just wanted to let you know that in the last month, I've received a number of compliments from folks in Dunedin, just randomly, without asking, that you are a great communicator on behalf of PSTA, and that you are very, very easy to work with. So I just wanted to bring that up on your behalf.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Secretary, and again, congratulations to Bob and James. I appreciate all your hard work. Future meeting subjects?
They are in your packet.
And we talked about the budget public hearing coming up. Anything else on that? Commissioner Mertz?
Yeah, just there's one on September 3rd. There's a second?
There's a second required one on September 10th.
September 10th,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Are they both 6 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay.
Cool.
Any other questions? Okay, any other business?
Also, just want to just highlight it's on the future meeting subjects there. September 24th, which is the next PSTA board meeting, is also at 6 p.m. We have 2 board meetings a year in the evening, so it's at 6 p.m. That morning, the Tampa Bay Partnership is hosting this transportation forum at the Caroline, the Hilton Caroline, and you are all invited to attend that.
Is that still on?
Next.
It's still on. It's still on.
Okay, thank you for that update.
Must be true then.
It's got to be. Let's move on to board member comments, and we'll start with Commissioner Diamond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to mention first again how much I appreciate your efforts with the memorandum and the continued efforts to bring better governance and oversight to the work of this agency. And secondly, I just want to highlight something that we did today that I think is important that was in our consent agenda was to enter into this agreement to provide for Wi-Fi service on all of our buses. I went to a presentation a few months ago. I know many of you were at it from APTA about millennials and public transit, and I can tell the board anecdotally that all my friends and I are glued to our devices,
Don't
and
rub
I
it in,
think that I think this will help enhance significantly our public transit, and particularly now that we have the type of agreement that we entered into last week with St. Pete College, and we're going to have more, hopefully more college students riding the bus in Pinellas County. I think this is a really great thing. So congratulations on that.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Commissioner Diamond. Commissioner Long?
I have nothing, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I would like to congratulate Commissioner Maroney on his success last night.
You're here.
I would also like to restate my support for our chair, Commissioner Welch, and also CEO Brad Miller. And there was a lot of talk today about the credibility of Greenlight. I think that the voters will ultimately decide in November credibility, and I think that's going to be the ultimate oversight here. And then also regarding the proposed express routes and the multimodal centers, there was likely excess private sector motor coach capacity in the area here that I think maybe we should consider in that. We could, if we engage the private sector in that, we could implement the routes faster, which would require less capital expenditures on our part, which could be used for other projects. And also on the multimodal centers, I'd like to be sure that we work with FDOT to make sure that the private sector has access to them. I mean, in the Tampa Bay area alone, there's over 200 private buses, and that's not counting the literally thousands of out of the area buses from other parts of Florida and other parts of the country that visit the Tampa Bay area, which is a huge economic development opportunity as well. Just as Joe Lopano had the economic models for what a plane delivers to, you know, we've got those same models for what buses deliver as well. So that's a huge factor there. And I don't want to see our area become like Washington, D.C., where they love the revenue and economic development derived from all of the out-of-town and out-of-state private coaches that go in there, but do everything in their power possible to make it an unfriendly motor coach destination. So Thank you.
Good points, thank you. When we come back, I want to, following up on that, talk about something that Brad and I talked about in terms of a planning retreat for the board after the election, perhaps offsite at St. Pete College Collaborative Labs, just kind of reset, and that could be something that we talk about at that point, but remind me just to hit on that briefly when we get there. Commissioner Smith?
Other than congratulate Commissioner Maroney on a re-election, it was a good night for him, and I have no other comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. Commissioner Rice?
Yes, congratulations, Commissioner Maroney. I'd also like to congratulate and thank Elaine Mann for her service chairing the Transit Riders Advisory Committee. And congratulations to Bob Lasher for the Osprey Award. I worked numerous years ago. I worked for the National Sierra Club for a number of years, and I know that they don't hand those awards out lightly, so congratulations for your service that was recognized. I would also like to thank Chairman Welch and our CEO, Brad Miller, for your comments and actions today. And thank you for the tone of civility. We should be civil, so we shouldn't pat ourselves on the back for doing things that we should do. But it's important for us to always set the tone, to listen to all points of view, and to make sure that in these chambers there's a tone of civility and tolerance. It's unfortunately, and we all know this, it's a little too easy to throw pot shots and to demonize government and to diminish people as bureaucrats. It takes a little more time to explain and understand what the public value is to a well thought out, efficient and dependable transportation system and what that means for our community. And I find it a little bit ironic that as we listen to Mr. Lopano's presentation on the positive steps forward with Tampa International Airport, we really don't question that there's a great value to having a world-renowned international airport in our community. We don't really question that of course it's important to have direct flights internationally and to the West Coast. We understand intuitively what this means for jobs in our society and our economy. And we also understand that within the envelope of the airport, how important it is to create and move people around on rail. And yet, in the larger scheme of things, this is exactly what Greenlight Pinellas is talking about as well, is providing better choices, transportation choices for our community to connect people to events and jobs in a better way. And there's great public value in that. So I'm reminded of the quote from Mark Twain. I'll just say this and I'll end my comments. But sometimes gossip and innuendo runs halfway around the world while the truth is still lacing up its shoelaces. And I thank the public who takes the opportunity to learn the facts and to discern the cheap shots from facts and to support plans that make sense for the community. Thank you.
Commissioner Rice, I'm going to go back into that. Very well. Well said. Commissioner Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First, I want to thank PSTA. Another summer came to an end, and I know they employed several summer youth interns. They gave young people an opportunity to go out and work the whole summer rather than getting into mischief and doing other stuff. And that's all you ever ask for, just the opportunity. That's it. And I thank PSA for being a partner in that. Also, I want to thank Commissioner Maroney also on his victory. But that ice bucket was a little liking. That's all the challenge. It was more water, and the way you threw it over your head. and to the board, I have no doubt, no qualms about the leadership of Mr. Brad Miller and also our chair, Mr. Ken Welch. I think they do a yeoman's job. They're all over the place. I had a lady grab me last night in Sam's and said, "You guys are everywhere. Just things. Keep the information coming." It's all about information. It's all about transportation option. And it's all about everybody having one vote. One man, one woman, one vote. And they'll get to do that on November 4th. And that's what it's all about. It's going to be a lot of rhetoric. I guess closer it gets to it, it's going to be worse. And the divide and conquer about get rid of this person or get rid of that one, that's probably going to continue too. So I just hope that in the end that everybody will get to exercise their democratic right, and that's all I want. I want to thank our employees. We have 36 on the accommodation list, so bear with me while I holds up your name and take it out of love. The first one is Evelyn Abram. She was safe, professional, and courteous. This is a bus operator. Oh, before we got 33 bus operators and 3 customer service reps. But Ellen Abrams was the first one. She was safe, professional, and courteous. Willie Beckett was kind, courteous, and professional. Patty Bouchot, polite, courteous, and professional. Derek Boyd, providing great customer service. Charles Briggs, caring and polite driver. Patrick Brown, kind, safe, and professional. Stephen Cruz, personable, good driver. Joshua Kamadi, helpful and polite driver. Carol Cuffey, friendly, nice, helpful driver. Walter Diagroski, probably saying that wrong. Kind, courteous, and professional driver. John Erickson, nice, respectful driver. Donna Fry, nice and kind driver. Deanna Grayston, friendly and considerate driver. Yolanda Gibson, professional and caring driver. Adrienne Hampton Smith, she had 2 accommodations. Courteous, kind, and professional driver. Donald Hayes, safe and professional. Ronald Hayes, nice, friendly, and professional. Williams Holmes was kind, nice, and friendly. Teresa Jones, courteous and professional. Paul Kirkland, kind and courteous. Stacy Knowles, kind and polite driver. James Lindsay, knowledgeable, kind driver. Ramon Perez, kind, considerate, and thoughtful. Virtue Rogan, sweet, honest, safe, and professional. Thomas Rubenbauer, nice and polite driver. Al Snell, kind, caring, and awesome driver. Whitman Dennis, kind, helpful, professional. James Thomas, courteous and professional. Ramon Thornton, nice, on time, respectful, and safe driver. Angela Tiggs, sweet, great driver. Michael Van Winkle, kind and knowledgeable driver. Lee Weathersby, wonderful, great driver. Wallace Webb, nice and courteous driver. His customer service reps, the last 3. Katie Liam, she was helpful and kind. Yvonne Johnson, service above and beyond. And Rosalind Mims, great service. Also, I want to thank the board members and No Tax for Tracks and everybody that attended this meeting for helping me celebrate my birthday PSTA meeting, so thanks. 51, Mr. Welch.
Hey, your birthday?
Yeah, 51.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Commissioner Newton.
Yeah.
Secretary Buljowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of quick things. I also want to congratulate all the elected officials in their races. Win or lose last night, they were willing to come out and try to be public servants, and really that is what an elected official is. And so whether they won or lost, I thank them for their desire to be out there and try to represent their neighbors and folks in their community. Special congratulations, of course, to our very own John Maroney, as well as my mayor, Dave Eggers, who has won his first step on his way, and of course, as a Dunedin person, I hope he represents us in November. I wanted to let you guys know that on September 14th, it's a Sunday from 1 to 5, Dunedin will be having its Taste of Dunedin event. It should be a great thing, so if anybody wants to get away for a Sunday and do something fun, please come visit us. I'd also like to take this time just to say that after November 4th, when we get working on new projects, I'd love to be able to see us work on something that I fought really hard for in the city of Dunedin, and that was better communication and access to records. I'd love to see us have all of our committee meetings televised, and I know we don't have the equipment for all of that, and that's a process to go through. I'd love to see us have a better video and records access. I'd love to see us have more nighttime meetings for the better access to folks that are working. But those are all things to talk about. It's not anything we need to address today. I just put it out there as a future meeting subject next year sometime. Because we do want folks, I think all 15 of us here want folks to be involved and have a voice. And some of those steps may certainly enhance that. And I want to tell everybody to have a wonderful holiday Labor Day weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Vice Chair Johnson?
Thank you. I'd like to especially thank the staff for arranging the meeting with the FDOT folks at the Planning Committee. It's apparent that the long-planned US 19 designs have not been adjusted to reflect the Department of Transportation's stated multimodal goals, or fully, that were advanced even over 7 years ago. And I would just say that that's an opportunity for more coordination between the MPO, the PPC, and the FDOT. Second thing I'd like to share with you is the fascinating presentation that was done by Dr. Paul Zine at the Tampa Bay Applications Group at FDOT on the 21st about the changing demographics of travel behavior. I'm going to try to get the thumb drive for the presentation and be able to share that with our executive director, and perhaps that can be made available or if requested. And the last thing, I've been spending some time the last couple weeks about talking to businesses in Clearwater, and it's amazing how many new software development companies are popping up and expanding in downtown Clearwater. And so that's young millennials that are already coming in, and they're looking for more. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Latvala?
Thank you. I, too, want to congratulate Commissioner Maroney. Maybe now he'll calm down at our meetings. He gets a little tense during campaign times.
No, really?
You noticed too, huh? And again, I want to thank Commissioner Welch and Brad and the staff for your leadership, continued leadership over the last few months, and all the criticism and attacks that we've been receiving. I think today's meeting was very well done.
Thank you.
The right things were said, and it reaffirmed this board's commitment to moving our transportation system forward. That's what we're here for, which is also moving our county forward. And that's a really good thing, and I'm very, very proud to be a part of this. And having sat here for several years now, and to see how we've gone from a place of a vision that we talked about to something that's tangible. And now our voters get to decide whether or not this is the right thing and whether or not they want to pay for and support moving forward. When I made my little impassioned speech an hour or so ago, I said the words, let me make sure I get it right. I said ridiculous scrutiny. Not a good thing. As elected officials, you know, we all welcome scrutiny.
Yes.
And we expect it, and we need it. It's good for us. But when we're attacked so hard, so viscerally, for lack of a better word, when we know in our hearts, in our souls, in our minds that the right thing is being done, it's really hard to take. And
It's called frustration.
yes,
Yeah.
and I'm showing it, and I shouldn't be doing that. If Commissioner Rice had made her comments earlier, maybe I would have better contained myself. But what I meant was not the scrutiny itself, but the way in which it's presented. We need scrutiny.
Absolutely.
We need all the help we can get to make sure that we're moving in the right direction, in the right way. But it needs to be done respectfully from both sides. Absolutely. And it needs to be done factually, most important, factually. We've got to be able, the public has got to be able to trust what they hear. And when they get mixed messages, government's the one that gets the brunt of that. And that's not good for our country, certainly not
No,
our community.
it's not.
And that's what we're dealing with at every level right now.
Mhm.
So that was what I meant. It didn't come out exactly that way, but I was exerting my frustration.
We understand.
You can get a little bit passionate too, like Commissioner Maroney.
I know.
so-
Yes, I can. Yes, I can. And I'm not Italian.
You're not. Thank you, Commissioner Latvala. Commissioner Johnson.
That's a good one.
You guys are great. I agree with everyone that's had anything to say. John, are you happy today?
I'm thrilled.
Well, we're thrilled that you're thrilled. And a little bit on the serious side, I really am so impressed at every one of the staff at PSTA. Brad, you have held my hand through all of it, and I appreciate that. Ken, you're awesome.
Thank you.
And don't forget that. I mean,
He's
I
also
know.
50.
Yeah.
50 and fabulous.
Buried in minutia. Everybody in the press, we support their right to take free shots at us, support it to the nth degree. So we just have to let the shots come and work with them, just like Darden said. Love Mark Twain. So thank you all for today's meeting. It was great.
Thank you so much.
And I am so proud I get to work with you guys. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Commissioner. Commissioner Barkley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a series of bullet points I want to touch on. First of all, I'd like to thank Elaine Mann. I thought it was very helpful to learn about the transit riders, and that's a very good thing to get a report from you, and I appreciate that. Secondly, I was absolutely thrilled to have Joe Lopano, who's got many, many things to do besides come to a meeting in Pinellas County. And his presentation was outstanding. It coincides very well with what we're trying to do here. If we can get our region to work together, we're going to have a fantastic future. And that was an extremely exciting presentation. I really enjoyed that. I would, again, like everyone else here, like to reiterate my appreciation and my support to Brad Miller and to Ken Welch. They have done an outstanding job. They are doing the right thing for our citizens, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that I fully support both of them. I'm very excited about the Youth Pass program. I think that's an outstanding effort to help our college students. It's an outstanding way to get people who might not otherwise ride our transit system to experience it and find out how beneficial it is to use a bus instead of a car. And I think that's a great thing that's going to happen in the future. Congratulations to John for a good win, and to Bob Lasher for his award. I work with Bob frequently. I try to go out and do as many Greenlight Pinellas presentations in the communities, and Bob's there every time, and he does a great job. He's a great presenter. I would also like to say that the weekly memo program is a great idea. It's a way for us to keep apprised of what's going on. There are a lot of people that don't know a lot about the Greenlight Pinellas program even now. I attend the monthly Pinellas County Mayor's meetings in lieu of our mayor, so I become de facto representative for PSTA, and I find that a lot of city folks are not fully up to date on what's going on, so it's a great thing that we're doing to try to educate everyone. I would also, we skipped over it in the consent agenda, but I wanted to say a word as a former military maintenance officer. What a great job Henry and his team are doing to keep our buses on the road, to avoid breakdowns, to make sure that we're doing preventative maintenance and saving money, and I want to congratulate him on that. And one other thing that I wanted to mention that I think is very important, Brad's memo on Friday mentioned the fact that there are a lot of activities going on, and I asked him to send me a note to tell me what they are. Many of them are in the daytime, and I'm still working, so I can't go to a lot of the daytime ones. But there are 13 meetings going on this coming week. 13 meetings about Greenlight, Pinellas, and PSTA. And I'd encourage all my associates to try and get out to some of those meetings and make sure that people know that the board members are very, very interested in what's going on with PSTA. And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Barkley. Commissioner Mertz?
Thank you. Awful lot said. Excellent, excellent.
Okay.
I just want to say that I've been on this for a little shy of 2 years. Very qualified group of people, very dedicated group of people. Obviously, something that's massive, there's going to be a drop here and there. It's important to be able to admit it, to deal with it, and to focus and move on. And I think today was an excellent example of that. It was also an excellent example of what this process is. People are here talking, we're listening, we're interacting, we're doing our very best to try to put something together, and I think that that's excellent. And it falls on, I mean, we had an election yesterday, and that's another situation where you have people stepping up, trying to do a good thing, you know, for across the board. And again, congratulations to everybody. Congratulations to John, of course.
Thanks, bud.
I just think that it's an excellent thing. The discussion today on the airport, I found that to be very interesting. I'm glad that you were able to schedule that. I think one thing that came out was said that I'm not sure everybody picked up on was that's all being done in one place. And I think he said it was $948 million.
Yep.
I mean, $1 billion in one place, and it was and he said it was approved, right? I mean, that's a big project. That's a lot of action going on in one spot over a long period of time. When you consider, you look at that, you look at what we're looking to do here. Unfortunately, big projects, big efforts require big dollars of money, and it's so long as you've got the things in place and a mindset to try to move things ahead, I think you'll be successful. September 3rd is our commission meeting, so I won't be there. Just give you guys a heads up.
Okay.
For next time.
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Mercer. That's a great observation on the price tag for that project. And now, the newly reelected.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Welcome back.
Thank you. And I want to thank all of you for the great comments, and I appreciate it. I was extremely humbled last night by the outpouring of support from the community, and my family and I were really humbled. I did have my hand up when Mr. Lupano was talking.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you.
I know you miss Ben once in a while. You miss your brother John here. I had my hand up because I wanted to thank him for the great teamwork that he has with our Convention and Visitors Bureau, has worked closely with our CVB and TDC, but most importantly, he works so well with Noah Lagos, our airport director at St. Pete Clearwater, and that's his competitor.
Yeah.
But they work together. This is a Tampa Bay unified thing, and I know that the Hillsborough eyes are watching Pinellas County on what happens with Greenlight. Yeah. But you could see the partnership that we already have in the airport and transportation and how important it is for this community to have that kind of agreement. To Commissioner Newton, not only do I want to wish you a happy birthday, but as far as the ice challenge goes, by the time I got downstairs in the condo with the ice that was in that bucket, and my wife remembered how to do the phone to film me, half the ice had melted that day. So it didn't look like there was a lot in there, but
it was cold.
It was cold. You saw the reaction. So, but on a serious note, as far as Commissioner Welch and Brad, this discussion today, this has been going on all year since I first was put on here in January with misinformation from the other side and misfacts, where the words that come out of Brad's mouth and the words that come out of the people that represent, like Cassandra when she goes out, they have to make sure that every word is absolutely perfect, because if not, then there's something on TV about it. And the thing is that, it just is unbelievable how and I know, I've just been talking to literally thousands of people south of Elmerton Road, and you know, they ask, green light's really the #1 issue. And I agree with Joe, how he said that a lot of people do not know about it. People were still asking me about it, like, what is this green light, John? And is this no tax for tracks? Is this affiliated with them? I mean, there's a lot of unsurety and unknowns out there. So you still have a lot of work to do, Brad. But Ken, I'm proud of you, as we all do. We all do. But you stirred this committee. You steered this committee today in a very positive way. Kept your cool. Glad you didn't resign, but we wouldn't have accepted it anyway. But Brad, you know, you made a mistake. You admitted it. I'm in that same club. I had made a mistake a couple years ago, but I'm not talking about that anymore. But, you know, none of us are perfect. Let he who is without fault cast the first stone. So you're a man for admitting it, and I know you've learned from it. But I'm happy to be back, and thank you all. It's been great, and thank you to the public for all your support.
Thank you, Commissioner Maroney. Commissioner Latvala, you had a...
Yes, thank you. A couple of thoughts came to mind after listening to everybody. First of all, Mr. Lopano's presentation, it occurred to me, the county commission, because of the CVB and our connections there, I don't think he said much that I didn't already know, but there was a lot of pleased excitement from some of the rest of you from cities. Could we take that video and send it out to all the county too? Let us replay it on our stations.
Yeah.
I think the public would like to hear that.
City of St. Pete would.
It's profound.
Take it down.
We all have television stations that we can put
Sure.
that on. I think
Yeah.
that's a pretty
And
good.
it's free. It's profound information. And it really goes hand in hand with what we're doing.
Sure does.
And shows the connection.
Absolutely.
Between our region, but the connection between our kind of transportation and the airport's transportation and how important they are. And then the second thing, we're all going to be really busy for the next 2 months, 70 days, working to help support Greenlight and making sure that everybody's informed and knows what they're voting for. Is PSTA coordinating with the campaign? I'm doing things for the campaign. I sometimes do things at a request of PSTA. I come up with ideas about how to contact different people. Are you all coordinating at all? And who?
I think we have to do that individually, not as an organization. So individually, I do have conversations with Joe Farrell and some of those guys. And Alan, I'm looking to you for guidance. As an organization, there's a line there that we need to keep the separation from the campaign correctly as a PSTA organization within its taxpayer dollars.
Brad and I have kind of talked about it. And
Okay.
Coordinating is probably too strong a word of what we.
Let me explain what I mean before you answer and see
Okay,
if this
maybe
falls in. They have a plan. The campaign has a plan of what they're going to be doing between now and Election Day. I think PSTA does as well. Do they know what each other's doing? So that they're not duplicating where it doesn't need to be duplicated and reaching everybody that can be. Does that help you with your answer?
Let me put it this way.
Coordinating means
What I know is there's communication, but also understand that the type of
The message.
message that we're putting out is much different than the message that they're legally able to do that we're
Right.
not able to do. So there may be overlapping or reaching out to similar sectors of the community. But I think our focus is different than their focus. So I think there's going to be some of that. But as specifically, any more specific coordination, we do have to be careful because we cannot step into the arena of getting into doing political ads or
Right.
participating, especially from a staff perspective. The staff really cannot participate in a PAC.
Right. Oh, of course.
Okay.
Not. Right.
Elected officials can participate in the PAC so long as it's on a non-compensated position. So we are trying to walk that line. We've had those discussions. There is some communication certainly back and forth.
But would a good rule of thumb?
I guess we hesitate to use the word coordination. That's probably gives us.
Communicate is better.
And
Do we know what they're doing, and do they know what we're doing?
I would say, I would describe the communication as PSTA has told Joe Farrell what we're planning on doing.
Okay.
Because it's public record.
Well, yeah,
What
it's
we
public
do is
record.
public
We
record
give
and it's
them our
educational.
And if I could just add, I guess
It's up to him.
my concern too is at least when we talk about it, we think of coordination as meaning we have input in what they're doing,
No.
and we definitely don't have any input into the campaign or how they're going to proceed. They're aware, like I think Brad said, they're aware of. My understanding is they're aware of what our thoughts are and our educational, informational campaign, but we don't control what they are going to do. So, what they believe is the appropriate area of the community to communicate to, and the message that they're going to communicate may overlap, but their message is going to be different.
Thank you, Commissioner Latvala. First of all, I want to thank Elaine Mann for being here today. All of our meetings are not like this, so I want you to come back. Thank you so much for chairing the track. The track. It's a very important committee to us going forward, and we look forward to seeing you on a monthly basis. Is she going to be here every month?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see you every month. We appreciate that.
Every month. Doesn't mean every single month, but
Okay. Again, Joe Lopano, great presentation for us, and it showed a lot of the integration with Greenlight Pinellas. My paisan, Commissioner Maroney, again, that election said a lot about where our community is, as well as the District 4 election.
Yes.
Still have great faith in our community to get to the truth and vote accordingly, and they continue to do that. Thank you all for your vote of confidence. There's no place I think any of us would rather be than working on this initiative when we're going to look back 10 years from now and realize how important this initiative has been to our county. And the hits come, and they're going to continue to come. And I'm going to say again, I hope they're not videoing now, but keep calm, keep focused, and support Greenlight. We're going to be successful. The last thing is Brad and I talked about after the election, maybe January or maybe for the next chair in January, a planning retreat where we get together, breathe for a minute, and kind of talk about the path forward, maybe at St. Pete Collaborative Labs. But if that's something that sounds like we should do, we'll start some initial planning for that and bring it back to you.
You got a collaborative lab in Hawaii, Mr. Shue.
No way. No way. That was a joke to my friends in the press back there. Is there anything else for the good of the order? Thank you all for great work today. We're adjourned.
Good job.
Last time I heard that.